It's Wednesday, October 29th, 2025, and here's the latest happening inside the federal machine. President Trump visited South Korea today, signing more trade deals and getting more business done for America. And another bombshell surfaced in Biden's DOJ Arctic frost investigation. Jack Smith submitted a subpoena to Verizon to tap the office phone line of Senator Ted Cruz. We have more political battling and blaming from both sides with regards to the government shutdown as it inches closer to the longest in American history. Secretary Rubio announced that disaster aid is on the way to Jamaica and the Dominican Republic, as well as Haiti and the Bahamas, following catastrophic Hurricane Melissa. The pharmaceutical website TrumpRx.gov is set to publish the types of prescription medications and available pricing, which is supposed to be significantly cheaper than the current market prices. And Customs and Border Patrol busted a network of Chinese importers attempting to skirt tariffs by disguising goods as something else entirely. And CBP recovered over $50 million worth of tariff funds. And an aide to Massachusetts Governor Maura Healey was busted for shipping 8 kilograms of cocaine to the state office building. Not exactly DC swamp related, but it's close enough. And there's a lot more that happened today, so I'm just going to dive right on in. And if you enjoyed the video, please give the video a quick like and consider subscribing to the channel if you enjoy the content. I do the swamp Monday through Friday, and the videos usually post around 11 o'clock p.m. at the latest, if not a little earlier than that. And also, every article that you'll see in the video will be linked in the description below. And I've got this from the U.S. Ambassador to Japan, flying in last night on Marine One from Yokosuka Naval Base. We flew right next to Tokyo Tower, all lit up red, white, and blue, as you can see in the picture. What an iconic sight for an iconic leader. Thank you, President Trump, for a spectacular visit to Japan. Very cool, man. They got the American flag all lit up on the tower in Tokyo. And this comes from the White House. President Trump continues to secure monumental billion-dollar deals across the world, this time furthering the alliance of the Republic of Korea and the United States. October 29th, today, the ROK, Republic of Korea, U.S. Summit. President Trump secures billions in landmark deals while visiting the Republic of Korea. I believe they have an article. Okay, no, they don't. It must be the next one. All right, so I'm just going to jump straight to the next one. From the White House, never surrender. And that's the president of South Korea with this incredible, insane collection of Trump merch. He's got all kinds of Trump collectibles. You think he might be a Trump fan? I think he's a little more than a Trump fan. He's like borderline Trump obsessed, man. So very interesting image posted from the White House. And also, President Donald J. Trump meets with New Zealand Prime Minister Christopher Luxon at the APEC summit in South Korea. So that also happened. And from Chairman Joe Greuters, the reason you didn't see world leaders treat Biden like this is because they had no respect for him. President Trump commands respect, and it's why America is once again respected on the world stage. And he's replying to Margot Martin from the White House, quote, Mr. President, you are the first American president to receive this. President Trump is awarded South Korea's highest honor, the Grand Order of Mugunghwa. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but that is South Korea's highest honor, and they are awarding it to President Trump. So let's take a look. Ooh, it's very quiet. Crank this up.
Security of Korea. Mr. President, you are the first American president to receive this honor.
무궁화는 영원의 의미를 훈장에 새겨진 월대관 평화 자유 승리를 근거하는 최고 지도.
Okay, well, that's all they shared. I kind of wish that I had come across a longer clip, even though this did come from, Margot Martin. She's one of the spokeswomen, right? Special assistant to the president and communications advisor. Okay. I might have been somewhat close, but I knew she was with the White House. So not exactly sure where's the honor. Is it this thing here or is it this thing here? I'm assuming it's on the right, but I don't know, man. It's all encased in glass. Looks like a very ornate looking, I don't know, crown. Not so sure. Just passed through it and just grabbed it while I was doing research for what Trump was up to today, and I came across that and felt it was, worth sharing. And I got this also from the White House. Once again, President Donald J. Trump at the 2025 APEC CEO Summit in South Korea. The Republic of Korea is a cherished American friend and close ally. It's truly one of the most remarkable nations anywhere on earth. President Trump delivers remarks at the APEC Summit in South Korea.
The Republic of Korea is a cherished American
I'm sorry, that
friend and a
was
close
crazy
ally.
loud. My bad.
And as we can see in this beautiful city, it's truly one of the most remarkable nations anywhere on earth. Here in this peninsula, the people of South Korea have forged a miracle of economic development like you rarely see, an industrial and technological powerhouse, and above all, a free society and enduring democracy and a thriving civilization. And I want to congratulate you. Very few places like it.
You know, I was thinking about for my 1,000 subscriber mark, if I ever hit it, I'm not sure if I will. I think I just crossed 180, which is mind-blowing because I've only been doing this show for a couple of months, and it's accelerating a lot faster than I had ever expected. Maybe the 500 subscriber mark, maybe 1,000 subscriber mark. I thought about doing something, somewhat of a giveaway, but I wasn't sure what. I wasn't sure what to give away. Maybe like a well-made in USA American flag or something like that. But maybe I should just do a giveaway for just like a new pair of earbuds or something, because I can't control the I have a bad habit of controlling the sound volume, because I'm trying to get into the habit of checking the volume level. I'm usually good at it before I hit play on a video, but once, like when I get rolling from post to post, sometimes I overlook it and I blow out earbuds, eardrums, and so on. But anyway, I don't know. This is just personal food for thought. All right, Department of State, the president on groundbreaking trade deals in the Indo-Pacific. Quote, these agreements will be incredible victories for all of us because everyone is better off when we have stable partnerships, not plagued by chronic problems and imbalances. Let's have a listen.
But around the world, we're signing one
Of course, now it's
trade
real
deal
quiet.
after another to balance our relationships on the basis of reciprocity. Very important word. On this trip alone, I've signed groundbreaking agreements with Malaysia, Cambodia, Japan. Our deal with the Republic of Korea will be finalized very soon, like moments or very
$18 trillion
These
worth of new investments.
agreements will be incredible victories for all of us because everyone is better off when we have stable partnerships, not plagued by chronic problems and imbalances.
I mean,
But around
it
the world,
is a lot of money, but I mean, how much does it really mean if the U.S. economy keeps spiraling into endless debt? I don't know. Long term, not exactly so sure. Not really sure, man. But I mean, look, in the short term, at the very least, $18 trillion, man, that's a hell of a lot of money. I'm assuming quite a bit of that is going to remain in the private sector, but maybe not. Maybe some of it will end up, I don't know, in the American people's hands in one way or another. Not free handouts, not entitlements, nothing like that, but just a booming economy or a booming manufacturing industry returning to America. That's what I mean by getting back into the hands of Americans. Just high-paying jobs, man. That's what we really could use right now. Senator Ted Cruz, Senator Chuck Grassley. So I'm moving on past President Trump's day and moving into the next topic. Senator Chuck Grassley just revealed that Jack Smith sent a subpoena to Verizon to tap my Senate office phone. This comes after learning that nearly 20% of Senate Republican cell phones, including mine, were also subpoenaed. Arctic Frost is the Biden DOJ's Watergate, and they need to be held accountable. It's almost as if they were just so convinced that they were just not going to lose the next election. The Democrats were just going to have a chokehold over the Congress and the Oval Office for what? Forever, or for maybe for the next few terms or something. Either that, or they were just either beyond retarded, or they were just flat out evil and just blinded by evil, and they just didn't give a shit. But here, let's hear what he has to say.
I've recently been informed by Verizon that at least 11 members with Verizon accounts were affected. That includes a hard line for Senator Cruz's office and a staffer's cell phone for former Senator Loeffler. AT&T informed me they challenged the legal basis for Jack Smith's efforts, and Smith backed down.
Dude, this is absolutely crazy. So I guess like AT&T and Verizon, they just have the ability to tap phone lines inside our congressional offices, inside the federal government, without, I guess, the higher ups known about it, or at least like the senators, you'd think they would be aware of something like that. Even if it's, I don't know, man, being tapped as part of an investigation, I guess, I'm not sure, but this has got to be completely unprecedented. Tapping hardline phones in the offices of sitting senators is insane, dude. So we'll just have to see how that evolves. They just announced this today, so I'm sure more information is going to come out. I'm definitely going to look into this further for tomorrow's episode, because this kind of tacks on to what I talked about yesterday with the Arctic frost information that came out. So if you want to check that out, you can check out yesterday's episode. And Chuck Schumer, Donald Trump's willingness to undermine national security protections and send AI chips to China is not America first, but China first. That's pretty rich coming from a Democrat that they're accusing the other side of being China first. I mean, come on, man. Giving China a leg up to dominate the most crucial technology facing the world. And I want to make a comment on this. Actually, I think I left a comment to what I'm about to say, but it is against federal law. It's illegal to send China AI chips that were developed within the last 5 years. I believe it's in the last 5 years. They are receiving old technology, but nice try. And it's at least like two or three generations older than the latest AI chips that we're developing inside the United States. China is not allowed by law, or the United States, or any company in the United States is not allowed to sell any AI chips to China that are either in the current generation, or I don't even think they can even sell previous generation. They have to go like 2 generations back as far as the CPUs and the AI chips and all that stuff. So, of course, as usual, Chuck Schumer, he's completely full of shit. And he got ratioed again. I think every single post he's getting ratioed at this point, which means he's absolutely losing his arguments left, right, and center. So, I mean, just see if I could prove my point. Actually, he did not get ratioed for that one that he posted an hour ago, but it was only an hour ago. I might give that one some time. The comments will probably catch up. That one got ratioed 2-1. That one didn't. We just tried to pass Senator Lujan's bill to keep both SNAP and WIC funded, but Senator Thune objected. The Republicans are weaponizing hunger, plain and simple. Look, dude, all of this would go away if you just simply vote yes, reopen the government, and SNAP in 2 minutes, like maybe 5 minutes. It would take less than an hour for all of those funds to hit everyone's SNAP cards. It would be virtually instantaneous. But of course, they're not interested in doing that. You know, that would be the easy way. So anyway, that one got ratioed. So I think we're like, what, 50-50 at this point. That one did. That one did. That one did. So like the older ones are getting ratioed a lot more. Like that one's 4-1, man. Meaning 2,000 likes, 8,200 comments, which means this is definitely a post that is something that the general public is very much against. The same with that one. Same with that one. Same with that one. And that one. And that one. So you kind of get the idea. That one too. And it's on and on and on. So like his most recent posts probably aren't ratioed yet because they just were posted about an hour ago, but give it a few hours. It'll be racking up comments real quick. A lot of people voicing their displeasure as to what Chuck Schumer and the Democrats are up to these days with keeping the government shut down. They're not on the winning side of this, man. People are really pissed off about this. Like I think it's like 1 million federal employees are currently either furloughed or they're not receiving money. I know at a minimum it's 700,000 employees, but I believe it's actually up slightly over 1 million if I'm not mistaken. But at a minimum it's 700,000. Plus you got the air traffic controllers. Plus you have 42 million people who are facing the loss of their SNAP benefits starting on Saturday. That is getting wild, dude. If you're looking for drama to look for just to entertain yourself, aside from listening to my show or once this episode's done, if you have a TikTok account, you could go over there, or you could even search here on YouTube and look for compilations of people who are threatening to engage in shoplifting, looting, violent crimes once they run out of food stamps. Like there's people that are admitting on TikTok to like kicking in private residences' doors and like stealing all their food and shit. Like they're just saying it out loud. It's absolutely insane. I watched a few of those earlier today, but not directly swamp related because they're not working in the swamp. So I figured that probably wasn't, the right or the most appropriate videos to be shown on here. That would be something more for the weekend. Cause like I'll look through pretty much whatever, especially if it's politically related over the weekend. So maybe I'll do a video on that. Anyway, from House Republicans, this is the press conference from House Republicans. And I forgot to mention this yesterday. If you watched yesterday's episode, I did House Republicans first, and then I did Senate Democrats next. The reason that I'm doing House Republicans and not Senate Republicans is because they didn't post a press conference on their profile. So whether if they did one or not today, I'm not 100% for sure, but the House Republicans did. So I figured that was the next best thing, even though I'd prefer to show the Senate Republicans. I'm not going to show the whole thing. It's lengthy. I think it's like 20 minutes because, all right, so let me.
Amen.
Oh, so they actually got started a lot earlier. Wow, they got started way earlier. Yesterday, it was like halfway through the video by the time they came in and started speaking. So I'll probably do 3-4 minutes, and I'll repost this if you want to check this out, the video in its entirety. There's a link to my profile below in the description, or you can just go straight to @HouseGOP if you happen to be on the X platform. Yep. So let's have a listen, see what they're talking about today with Speaker Mike Johnson.
29 of the Democrat shutdown.
Day 29.
Things are getting really tough for the American
just shy of
people.
29,
the Democrats
technically.
are coming near now to a cliff that they will not be able to turn back from. And it's of great concern to everyone who's paying attention to all this. You will note that more air traffic controllers and TSA agents and park rangers are about to go without a paycheck. You've got families and children that rely upon SNAP benefits that are going to go hungry here at the end of the week. You've got more critical workers, by the way, including the people who are the stewards of our nuclear defense arsenal.
80% furloughed.
To stay at home as the government
remains 80% of them.
The Democrats
That's kind of fucked up, man.
Every one of these consequences. So we want to point out a couple
Probably
of important facts this morning
look,
for you.
I cringed when I first read that, and I mentioned that at least a week ago on this show that they were furloughing 80% of the personnel that maintain our nuclear stockpile. And it's like, dude, you probably should have kept that behind closed doors. Yeah, okay, I get it. You want to be transparent and everything, but we have a lot of other countries out there that don't like us very much that do have nuclear capability. I don't know, all I'm saying.
It's no coincidence that polling this week confirms that over 70% of the American people believe the Democratic Party is out of touch.
70%,
and amazingly to us, still every day.
I bet it's more than that, to be honest.
They turn their backs on more and more hardworking American families.
I think it's because fewer people are watching mainstream media. Every passing day, there's just fewer people watching mainstream media and integrating over to decentralized media. People getting their media either from social media or they're getting it from places like right here, like on YouTube or other podcasts, or even actual news websites that do broadcasting through mediums like on YouTube or even Rumble, places like that. And a lot less people are watching CNN. Like I think the key demographic in CNN for prime time, it's less than 100,000 people. It is insane how little that people are actually watching the mainstream news now. So, and it could have taken something as simply as what happened to Charlie Kirk to just, I mean, imagine how many people woke up when they first learned of that. And then they saw people on their side celebrating it. And they're like, wait a minute, hold the fuck on, man. Like, look, I'm all about, like safe, legal, rare abortion. And I'm all about, social programs. But dude, I didn't realize y'all got this fucking nuts. No, hell no, to hell with this. So we really don't know for sure. And that's why it's going to be so interesting going into the midterms to see how that actually ends up playing out. Because, yeah, it's going to be a long time from now, relatively speaking, especially politically speaking. Things move real fast. Politicians expect your memory to only be like a couple of weeks long at the most. But I think with what happened to Charlie Kirk, I don't think people are ever going to forget that, especially if they happen to be on the internet, specifically on the X platform, where that video, the close-up video of him actually getting shot, and as graphic as that was, a lot of people, like myself, when I first heard about it, I was scrolling through the posts and it just, bam, it just, because on X, those videos, they autoplay when you scroll. And I just saw it. Like I had no preparation for it. I knew exactly where I was standing. I was in my kitchen. It was like 5:30 in the afternoon. It was sunny outside. Like I remembered it so vividly. I'm never going to forget that moment. And I think potentially maybe millions of people are just like me on that. So anyway, I'll continue.
To prolong their pain. And that is exactly what's being felt here. It is incredible to us that they've now voted 14 times between the House and Senate to reject the clean, simple funding bill that would simply reopen the government. 14 times.
Yep, so they voted again today.
At the American people in spite of their pain that they themselves have acknowledged. And as we've explained here, the motivation behind that is very clear. And this is why the polling is indicating what it is. The people know
fuck the American people. That's how clear it is.
Their fear are the most radical far-left forces
Yeah, the
in
radical
party
left.
that has made them decide to obey the demands of the far left and to shut down the entire government and thereby inflict all this pain on the people. And almost comically at this point, the Democrats are still out trying to convince you that this is somehow Republicans' fault.
Right.
But
It's
the
hilarious.
Facts are the facts, and the American people can see that very clearly. They see the truth. We brought you a handy scorecard.
Yeah, they're
here
blaming
so
the
you can,
Republicans for
follow the
Obamacare.
votes.
Fucking
This is very
Obamacare.
simple.
I'm
The
not
votes
kidding.
to pay the troops and federal workers and continue SNAP benefits and get air traffic controllers and Border Patrol agents paid. This is the vote tally. You see the dates here. The House did our work back on September 19th, and we voted, Republicans voted yes. Democrats voted no on all
Of
those
course they
things.
did.
And the Senate has now done it an additional 13 times. These are the votes. No one can say that this is in any way the fault of Republicans. We have a clean,
Nope.
simple bill, and everybody knows it.
And look, Democrats will try to convince you that they voted yes to shut down the government. That's not what happened at all. They voted yes to continue spending for the government. They voted yes to continue the funding for the government. Democrats voted no to continue funding for the government. It's that simple. And they do try to twist that around, even on some mainstream media shows where they say, well, they voted to close the government. No, they didn't. No, they didn't. They simply didn't.
Democrats are openly admitting that this is their shutdown. You have seen the highlight reel of all of them stumbling into admitting that. And yet they're also incoherently claiming that the shutdown is somehow on the fault of the other party. And the people aren't buying it. And that's why the polling continues to show that the approval of Republicans in Congress is rising with each passing day. And
Good.
the Democrats, at the same time, Democrats in Congress have
I'm not
the
crazy
lowest
about
approval
Republicans,
rating
but
they've
they're
ever had
a hell of a lot better
since
than Democrats
polling
right now.
began, since recorded polling began on these metrics. And here's just an example yesterday. For example, CNN polling showed yesterday the approval of Republicans in Congress is up 8% since the shutdown began among independents. I mean, that's an important metric because people are paying attention. They understand what's happening and they see who is responsible. It's really
Yes,
important.
because they're lying so blatantly. Like what I showed yesterday with Chuck Schumer saying that Trump's main concern is with the ballroom. He's primarily concerned with that. His press secretary even admitted to it. And you've got pundits on CNN, on the farthest left-wing media that are even calling that out and saying that's not what Caroline Leavitt said. They were the reporter asked Caroline Leavitt about different projects happening at the White House, including the Rose Garden. It's undergoing a renovation. And they said, is there anything else happening at the White House? Caroline Leavitt said, no, there's only the Rose Garden and there's the ballroom. But the president, he's a builder at heart, so his main focus is on the ballroom. And all these Democrats are saying that Trump literally said that the ballroom is his only focus right now. He doesn't even care about the shutdown. And even the left-wing media are calling Democrats out on that. And I believe I have a video tonight with another example of that happened either last night or during the day today. And I think independents are probably seeing clips like that in passing and realizing, wow, dude, they are blatantly lying, like straight up
Thing
lying.
to watch. Ronald Reagan used to remind
The Democrats,
us
that is.
that you can always trust the American people, and we do. We trust their intelligence, and we trust their understanding of basic civics.
It's
In fact, we
basic
trust the
common
American
sense,
people's
man.
Understanding of civics far more than the Democrats in this building right now. And a quick reminder of that is the people know that in the House of Representatives, you need
It's
a
a
majority
simple
vote,
majority.
218 votes to pass legislation.
Exactly.
To pass a clean, continuing resolution to fund the government.
But it ain't a
That's
direct
exactly
democracy
what
in
we
the Senate,
did
folks.
On September 19th. They also know that in the Senate, you have to have 60 votes to
Yeah.
pass substantive legislation.
Not a simple
And
majority.
We've only got 53.
It's almost as if
Republican
we
seats.
don't
That
live in a
means we
democracy.
need, by the math, at least 7 Democrats to join us to reopen the government. Now, in other words, the Democrats are the only reason that the government is closed, and there is no other way to spin that, to
Nope.
make something
That simple.
else true about it. And of course, the Democrats know all that. We've seen their party leaders, and we've now made their phrases and their comments.
All right, I'll just
famous
go
here
another
every
minute
morning.
at the most.
Chuck Schumer, Whip Catherine Clark in the House. They've openly admitted that they're using the pain of the American people as their leverage. Why? To show to their base that they're fighting. And they're counting on the American people not noticing all this. And that's the very reason why we have to
Yeah,
come
for
in
sure.
here every morning and relay the simple truths. I mean, somebody handed me this as I was walking in here yesterday, according to the Media Research Center study, by a 2.5 to 1 margin, the Capitol Hill Press Corps has tweeted more about the House calendar during the shutdown than the negative consequences of the Democrat shutdown, than the troubles that we have, the hardships that are being experienced because of the troop pay and WIC funding and flights grounded and SNAP funding. You guys are writing more about the House calendar than the real pain that's being inflicted on the American people, and that's why we have to come in and relay the simple facts. Now, there's a misguided strategy.
Okay, all right, I'll cut it there. I don't want it to go too long because obviously it's a long video in its entirety. However, on the individual politician level, at least on social media, that's about the shutdown is just about all they're talking about. They're constantly talking about it. Probably 90% of everything that I read through, trying to gather content for each episode, is just strictly House shutdown related. So anyway, I'm going to play this too. I'm going to try to keep it at the same length because I want to be fair. To both sides so we can get, a decent idea as to how Senate Democrats are portraying the shutdown. And we'll just get a listen for that and we'll see what they're talking about. So I'm just going to skip around to see where we're at. See, why is it just Chuck Schumer and nobody else? Like we're, Senator Mike Johnson had 5-6 people behind him and it's just him and I think I know who he is. I can't remember his name offhand. That's not Klobuchar, is it? That might be. It might be. All right. Anyway, whatever.
Man, Donald Trump. We're now.
All right. So what do we got here? Yeah, everybody is going to be in good shape. Yep. Donald Trump, when asked if he would fund SNAP next month. Okay. That's about as vague as you can possibly get. And the Republican lie, they can fund SNAP right now. Well, yeah, you can fund SNAP by simply voting yes to reopen the government. If you vote yes, you're passing spending. Guess what a part of that spending is? SNAP benefits, because the continuing CR bill funds the entire government. It keeps the government funded in its entirety, including SNAP, because that's paid for by the government. And it only carries government funding until the end of November, where the primary funding bill is up for voting on the House and the Senate floor. So we're almost at the point now where the CR bill is almost irrelevant because we're coming up to the point where they are going to vote for next year's spending bill. All they have to do is vote to reopen the government. And like I said at the beginning of the show, within minutes, everybody will have SNAP benefits. Everybody who's on SNAP benefits will have their cards reloaded.
Days from open enrollment. Today, the window shopping begins. People are going to see drastic increases in their health care costs.
Thanks to Obamacare.
People are going to sit at the dinner table Friday
Strictly
night.
Obamacare.
With a pit,
they can't
with a
spend
hole
that.
in the pit of their stomach and saying, how are we going to do this? We can't afford another $4,000 or $5,000 a year, $10,000, even $20,000 in some cases for health care. How are we going to do without health care, but how are we going to pay for health care? And now, for the first time in history, a president, Donald Trump, is refusing to fund SNAP during a shutdown. 42 million Americans, hungry children.
He's talking about emergency funding that is allocated for SNAP benefits in a time of national emergency. President Trump cannot touch those funds because there is not a national emergency that he can declare. Technically, he could declare a national emergency with regard to this, but this is truly not an emergency. It isn't, because it takes five senators to reopen the government. It's a simple yes choice. That's it. And even if an emergency is declared, as far as I understand, the president can't unilaterally open those funds up to SNAP beneficiaries. It has to be through an act of Congress. Congress has to take those emergency SNAP benefits and funnel them into the SNAP program directly. President Trump, apparently, from what I've read, he can't touch that. Only Congress can, which, of course, Chuck Schumer is.
Middle-class families someone's lost the job. Veterans, senior citizens who struggle to pay for their food. All of these people will lose their SNAP benefits. Not because the money's gone. Not because it's not permitted. Because Donald Trump ordered it stopped. Donald Trump is a vindictive politician and a heartless man.
I wouldn't really call him a politician, though.
Let's be clear. This does
Historically,
not need to happen.
How long has he been a politician? For half a century?
Under any president, Democrat or Republican, has SNAP been cut off in a shutdown, and Trump knows he can do it. Here's what he said. Yeah, everybody is going to be in good shape. Yup. Donald Trump, when asked if he would fund SNAP next month, that's what he...
Notice the lack of sourcing. We have no idea where that came from. No source anywhere. Nowhere to speak of.
This
Typical of
October.
Democrats.
But then all of a sudden, seeing how badly they're losing on health care,
they count on people being that stupid.
Decided to use these 42 million innocent Americans as pawns. Back in 2016, here's Sonny Perdue, the agriculture secretary. They funded it under Trump. In the last shutdown, rather 2019, January 8th, 2019. They funded it. So don't believe the bull, and I hope in every...
fully fund SNAP benefits. That has nothing to do with the emergency SNAP benefits. It's like $7 billion that they have set aside for an emergency. This has nothing to do with an emergency.
Story,
dude.
you will write that they can fund it on their own.
Years ago.
And I'll tell you something else. John Thune is responsible. The Hawley bill now has 11 Republican co-sponsors and many, many Democrats, including myself, Senator Klobuchar, and Senator Lujan. We have all co-sponsored the Hawley bill. Today, tomorrow, if John Thune would put it on the floor, it would pass overwhelmingly.
Not needed.
But he's afraid of Trump.
Not necessary.
He's going along
Just
in this
pass the funding bill.
cruel thing in Trump. Just a few weeks ago, Trump's own U.S. Department of Agriculture confirmed it had $6 billion in emergency funding.
$6 billion. That's what it was.
When asked about SNAP at that point, here's what he said. Yep, everybody's going to be in good shape. That means he's got the money, folks.
That could literally mean anything, dude.
And these Republican lies,
the context
simple,
could be
that they
infinite.
don't have the money, are lies. But they're vicious lies. They're hurtful lies. They're harmful lies. Okay? Last Friday, all of a sudden, Trump ordered that the USDA delete the plan and refuse to use the money. No reason, no explanation, plain cruelty. Cruelty that even Trump back in 2019 didn't do, but he's gotten so much worse and so much meaner and so much more desperate because he knows the American people are turning against him on health care, and as Amy will mention,
yeah, because he totally controls
later,
Congress.
on SNAP as well.
Not the
Trump
minority
is
leader that
weaponizing
you're hearing
hunger.
from right now.
He's turning millions of children and seniors and veterans into political pawns. He's choosing politics over people, cruelty over compassion. And let's be clear about this. They've been on a crusade. The Republicans have been on a crusade against SNAP all year. They slashed it by $200 billion
Fraud,
this summer
waste,
to pay
and
for their
abuse.
tax cuts.
Because they're trying to
For
downsize
billionaires.
government spending.
So they don't.
Because we have a
they've never
$38
wanted
trillion
SNAP.
deficit. That's the
They
reason.
don't want it now. But as again, they're using these 40 million innocent people as pawns. It's a disgrace. They can end.
All right. Well, anyway, they I'll just leave it there. But they cut a lot of the SNAP funding, to my understanding, because they are extending the program for people eligible for SNAP benefits to a maximum of only 2 years and not for generations and generations. And if you collect SNAP benefits, you have to have children aged under 14 years old. And if you don't, you have to be working a minimum of 20 hours a week. Anyway, when they ran all the numbers, ran all the statistics and everything, they determined that the amount of money that's needed for SNAP benefits is X amount of money, not this amount of money that we're currently funding. So we're going to pass this amount after we did all of our calculations, 2 years maximum, this, that, and the other. And that was the cut, to my understanding, of the SNAP benefits. So anyway, so I'll move on to the next thing. Like, can I start calling them, I don't know, I probably shouldn't. I was thinking about starting to call him Chuck Schittler, but that's probably too hot for YouTube. All right, whatever. So Eric Doherty, holy smokes, the Democrats in D.C. are panicking after this brutal moment on CNN. Jake Tapper, this is a choice by Senate Democrats to not vote to open the government. Rep Melanie Stansbury, no, it is not. And Tapper says, yes, it is. So this should be very interesting indeed.
Should the Democratic senators from New Mexico, your home state, vote to open the government so that these SNAP funds are not at risk?
Let me be clear. The administration is choosing to starve American children with money that they already have appropriated.
I'm not applauding
this
their.
is
I'm
a
not applauding
choice
their
by
tactics.
the White House.
Well,
this is a choice by the White House.
This
They
is
are
also,
choosing
Congresswoman,
to
this
cut
is
off
also a
food
choice
assistance.
by Senate Democrats
No,
to
it
not
is
vote to
not.
open the government. Yes, it is. I understand why they're doing it. They're doing it because they want Medicaid funds restored. They're doing it because they want Obamacare premiums to be extended past the end of the year. I understand.
I love how they keep saying that. It wasn't just Jake Tapper, but somebody else yesterday. They used the word Obamacare. They're not saying Affordable Care Act. And I applaud him for saying that, because that reinforces that this is owned by the Democrats. It's not owned by the Republicans, but by the Democrats. And I don't know really what's going through the CNN's thought process with pushing back like they are. I highly appreciate it, because they're finally speaking the freaking truth for a change. And it seems like they just know that this rhetoric that the Democrats are speaking on their channel over and over again is not going to work with the American people. And they know it, and they don't want the Democratic Party to completely implode. And they're trying to save face, I guess. At least that's just my assumption with regard to Jake Tapper. But it's been quite satisfying the last couple of days, finally standing on the side of reality for a change.
Sir, let me just be clear. The money for contingency plans is sitting there. That is why the states are suing. The White House is withholding funds from
2 to 3 weeks worth
to
of SNAP funds.
Food.
Just 2 to 3 weeks.
It may not be a big deal to you, but let me
It is
tell
a big
you
deal
that
to me.
for the grandparents, for grandparents
a big deal
that
to me.
literally are feeding their children,
My point
to
is that
not
it's a
have
short-term
money
solution.
in those accounts.
It's
It
a
doesn't
short-term.
matter. At the end of the day,
It doesn't
people
matter.
need to be able to feed their families, and Saturday is when those funds
For
run
2
out.
weeks.
So we are
Strongly,
fighting
Congresswoman,
to get
why
that
not ask
funding.
the Senate Democrats from New Mexico to vote to open the government so
Thank
that the
you.
SNAP funds...
Sir, I am here in the House
Immediately.
of Representatives. It is shut down. I am fighting to get the government reopened. I am fighting to get funding put back into SNAP that is already existent, and I am fighting for the American people. I am here. But show me a single Republican that is here. Not a single one is here to make sure that Americans are fed on Saturday. That is why I am here.
Democratic Congresswoman Melanie Stansbury from New Mexico.
They ran out of time. Oh my God, dude, I cannot believe I'm about to say this, but I actually liked what Jake Tapper said. I kind of appreciate this version of CNN that they've suddenly turned into, where they're finally speaking well, in this instance, he's speaking absolutely the truth, that they could refund all of the SNAP benefits in just one stroke of a pen, or just a simple thumbs up in the Senate. Yes, I'm voting for the funding. And then just like that, everybody's funded. And I didn't even really realize that the SNAP benefits in the emergency situation, emergency SNAP benefits from the USDA are only about 2 to 3 weeks worth of benefits. I thought it probably would have been substantially longer than that. I mean, that's almost nothing compared to how long I think that the government's going to stay shut down for. I think it's going to be shut down for months. I think it's going to carry over into next year, maybe even significantly into next year, because they're committed at this point. They had the No Kings protest, which was really the olive branch that was given to them to reopen the government, because they were able to virtue signal to the far left base. All right, well, let's get things reopened. I think everybody got the message, but they didn't do it. And it's like, well, what else? What excuse are they going to give Democrat voters if they reopen the government? I don't think there's literally anything at all. I think they forced themselves into an absolute stalemate. And Republicans, with regard to the SNAP benefits, I kind of expect Republicans to eventually cave. I think what they're going to do is they're going to put something on the floor to extend SNAP benefits because of the sheer number of people that are going to go without them. And that's probably going to cause a lot of instability. Like I said, when you get social media platforms with people on there talking about how they're going to start looting stores, and I mean, they might not pass something immediately, but if shit starts getting crazy with civil unrest over the next couple of weeks, I fully expect Republicans to cave on that aspect, even though I don't think they should. I think they should fully stand their ground. And if all this unrest happens, look, where's it going to happen? It's going to happen in blue states. It's going to happen in blue cities. And of course, the local Democrats just say, well, it's all the Republicans' fault, but just let them keep saying what they're saying, because maybe not everybody, because there still are a lot of brainwashed people out there, but I think the majority of people, even in those blue cities, they're aware of what's happening, especially if they're watching things like CNN. I mean, it's a very small number of people watching CNN these days, but obviously CNN, they're standing on this side of what's real, so I definitely appreciate that. All right, so Jimmy Patronis' press office, House Republicans are continuing to work for the American people while Senator Schumer works for his radical base. So there's that. They said that today, Jimmy Patronis, his press office, and we have this clip that he reposted from House Republicans While Democrats pose for TikToks and turn a blind eye to the American families who are hurt by their shutdown, Republicans roll up our sleeves and continue to serve our constituents at food banks, rural hospitals, and national parks.
Republicans have been working very hard around the clock every day of this Democrat shutdown to do our best to reduce the pain for our constituents. In our districts, we got a video running over here just showing some highlights of what all the House Republicans are doing and have been doing for the last few weeks. Out in their districts, they're trying to help Americans navigate the crisis that the Democrats have created with.
Yeah, and do you know what Democrats are saying? Republicans are on vacation. They're on vacation. They're on vacation. They've been on vacation for like 28 days now. No, yeah, they may not be in D.C. because they're back home trying to, I guess, get ready for the whole SNAP benefits catastrophe, which reminds me, if you happen to have a food bank nearby, I mean, I would probably look into the hours because a lot of them don't seem to be open for food drop-offs over the weekend, but go through your pantry and drop off some food for, your local community, because there might be some people who are going to be in need of some food. And, if you don't want to give food because of the whole SNAP benefits situation, because, like a lot of people have an argument that they don't like SNAP benefits because a lot of people, they take advantage of it, which I get, but there are a lot of seniors who get SNAP benefits. Plus the economy, the 30% increase in grocery prices, like without getting into the weeds with that, like there's a lot of people who could really use the help. And if nothing else, Thanksgiving's coming up. I mean, a lot of people tend to donate food around Thanksgiving, so this would be a perfect time to do just that.
They're selfish political decisions. Here's a few more examples this morning we wanted to highlight. In Montana, Congressman Troy Downing, he's met directly with his TSA officers and air traffic controllers who continue to show up to work while Democrats keep the government closed. In New York, Congresswoman Nicole Malliotakis has been working with her local national park officials to organize community cleanups, strategized with rural hospital leaders to ensure that these communities are able to access that $50 billion rural hospital fund. Congresswoman Sherry Biggs has been meeting with her small business owners. Congressman Cliff Bentz is meeting with his air traffic officials.
While Democrats posture in front of the cameras.
And look, if you have a Republican member of Congress and you want to see what they're up to, are they really on vacation or are they actually in your local area getting shit done? You can go on the X platform. I think you don't even have to sign in, I don't think. I think you can just go to x.com and you can go to the search, and it's right there, just the search, and you could just type in the name of your rep and you'll see a whole list of what they've been up to. They share photos, they share videos, they share basically the exact content more or less that I'm sharing here, just on the personal level, just to see if I mean, that's what's great about the X platform. You can follow your representatives on a day-to-day basis and see what they've been up to.
Republicans are actually out in their districts working. Just take a look at the video that we've been playing all morning. Republicans have been in their district working for the American people who are suffering from this Democratic Schumer-led shutdown. You will see Republicans volunteering at food banks, Republicans supporting rural hospitals, Republicans cleaning up national parks, helping people in real ways.
I applaud my colleagues who are in their districts trying to figure out ways to help people during this difficult time, working with food banks to get food to people who are missing SNAP benefits, WIC payments, military members who are not getting paid, but they're overseas, as Chairman Pfluger talked about. While their family's still here, those babies still have needs, and yet the paycheck's not coming in. Those bills are still due.
Well, and Republicans, they got the truth on their side, and they can explain it extremely simply that the government requires Senate Democrats to reopen the government, period. We do, and we don't have enough of them because they're refusing. They're refusing to vote to pass the spending bill. I mean, it's that easy. They could just explain it that simply to their constituents back home, and that's why the government remains shut down. But I mean, that's a taste as to what Republicans who aren't in Washington currently are up to. But Democrats will tell you that they're just on vacation. All right, Rapid Response 47, nice and slow so even the lunatics can follow. Yes, the GOP has House, Senate, and the White House. The GOP House passed a clean bill to reopen the government, which the president would immediately sign. The GOP Senate also did, but needs 60 votes to pass there. Dems refuse without health care for illegals. So there you have it. All right, Buddy Carter, House GOP is working hard, traveling throughout our districts, talking to and assisting folks negatively impacted by the Ossoff-Schumer shutdown. And he's replying to House Republicans, and it's the same Same that I already played, so I'm not going to go over it a second time, of course. And this is from the GOP. U.S. manufacturers are calling on Democrats to end their shutdown. Shop floor NAM. Who's shop floor NAM? The National Association of Manufacturers works for the success of the people who make things in America. And they say, quote, with each passing day, the American people suffer new losses and businesses remain stuck in neutral. It is time to move forward and allow the federal government to get back to work. Day 29. And technically, it's still day 28. The reason why they're going with day 29 was because way back when the first day that it shut down, it actually shut down like at 8 o'clock p.m. on September 30th. That's when the vote came up, and the government effectively shut down at midnight. So technically, the government's been shut down for 28 days, 20 hours, 59 minutes, and 11 seconds. But who's counting? But yeah, like, so they're bumping it up an extra day because they voted on it earlier in the evening on day one. So yeah, so like we're technically in 28 full days of government shutdown. All right, House Homeland GOP new following ground delays from Newark to DFW. Chairs Rep Garbarino and Rep Carlos sent letters to aviation stakeholders requesting info on how the government shutdown is affecting the security of our airspace and the TSA and FAA personnel who are protecting it without pay. And this is a thread, so we'll go through this. Politico Pro, morning transportation, first in MT, I'm assuming Montana, per a letter first, right? Yeah, or maybe morning transportation. Maybe that's what it stands for. First in morning transportation, maybe. Anyway, whatever. So per a letter first shared with Sam, House Homeland Security Committee Chair Andrew Garbarino, Republican in New York, and Transportation Panel Chair Carlos Jimenez, Republican from Florida, are asking Airlines for America and other aviation groups to dig into and share findings on how the shutdown has impacted various aspects of air travel. The pair want responses to multiple questions by November 7th, including on queries related to staffing levels, work performance, and coordination between the groups and the FAA, DHS, or TSA. And moving on to the next one, quote, if the shutdown persists, the United States could face a full-scale aviation crisis during the peak holiday travel season that would affect tens of millions of Americans and inflict lasting damage on an industry essential to national commerce and mobility, and to hit the air traffic controllers even harder because, you know, a lot of them have taken PTO off to enjoy Christmas, enjoy Thanksgiving, probably traveling because they make pretty good money. I bet that all of them are either going to have their PTOs outright canceled, or they're going to be strongly pressured to cancel their PTOs so they can stay at work and man the air traffic control towers in order to keep the airports running. Because, I mean, a lot of them may be just straight out walking off, or they might be quitting, or they might, you know, there's a number of things, problems that are going on, such as the last government shutdown. Air traffic controllers were taking sick day after sick day after sick day, and they were just refusing to come back into work. So they're worried that's going to happen again with this shutdown. So anyway, I'll repost this if you want to read the letter with regard to that. Is that it? Was that all they had? Show probable spam. I'm sure that's not going to be related. All right. Well, typically a thread means that they've got multiple posts, but all right, I guess they just got the two. All right, moving on to Rep. Vern Buchanan. More than 155,000 federal employees in Florida are without pay. I've heard from constituents struggling to cover bills because Democrats refuse to act. They deserve better, and I'm doing everything I can to make sure that happens. So this is in my neck of the woods, so I'll give this a play.
Federal workers here in Florida, over 155,000 are without pay right now?
155,000.
Right.
Yeah. It's just the uncertainty, too. They, you know, a lot of them are taking jobs other places. I've got our staff. I feel bad even at our level and all our member staff. They're not getting paid. I've got staff here not getting paid. They got checks. They got bills they've got to pay. That's got to change, and hopefully I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that happens.
Well, plus not to mention the military. I'm not sure if that 150,000 includes, or 155,000 includes the military, but I mean, locally where I live, we've got MacDill Air Force Base, which is a very large base. And we got Eglin Air Force Base up on the Panhandle, and I'm sure we got plenty of other bases dotted around the state. And none of them are getting paid. Not right now. All right, so moving on to Senate Finance Committee. Quote, the taxpayers have been paying by propping up Obamacare for years. It's never brought down prices. Not once. Never. It's only gone up. To hear a story that somebody's premiums are going up 500%, it's a direct result of the failure of the Obama health care law. From Senate Finance member Senator John Barrasso. So
I would just
we'll
turn
listen
to
to
the
this and see what he
headline in the
says,
New York
if
Times,
anything
the
else.
Democrat-run New York Times on Sunday, and was Obamacare is pricey. Question is, who's paying? And the taxpayers have been paying by propping up Obamacare for years.
Yeah,
It's
since day
never
one.
brought down prices. It's failed completely. And to hear a story that somebody's premiums are going up 500%, like these Biden bonus payments that are expiring because the Democrats chose the date.
They chose the date.
expiration, that's about 4% of what is described now as 500. So the 496% that I heard the ranking member talk about is a direct result of the failure of the Obama health care law that has been voted on by not a single Republican.
Yeah, talk about a slap in the fucking face to Republicans for them to put that on Republicans and blame them for the reason why healthcare premiums are about to go up $2,000 a month because it's all the Republicans' fault. No, it unequivocally is not their fault in any way, shape, or form. They're just counting on their voters to just be simply that stupid. All right, so Senator Elisa Slotkin, we're throwing ourselves at them to talk about healthcare, which, of course, it got ratioed as most of these do, but we'll listen to this.
Frankly, throwing ourselves at them to have that conversation. We're coming up with our own alternatives, like to show that, look, this is what we would like to see. Where can we start negotiating? But my colleagues on the other side of the aisle have to want a negotiation. So that's what we're waiting for.
So you might make an argument that a lot of the Democrats, they're over on Blue Sky because that's the new platform that a lot of the far leftists went over to. And maybe that's the reason why there's a lot more comments than likes and they're not getting as much attention as they used to. However, there's only 2 million active monthly users over on Blue Sky, whereas over on the X platform, there's almost 600 million active monthly users on the platform. So needless to say, it's, well, what is that, like 300 times larger of a population on X. And I know like a lot of people did go over to Blue Sky, especially when it first started. I think like 40 million people migrated over there. But after it was out for a number of months, people just slowly started trickling back over onto the X platform. All right, but anyway, so from Rep Darren Soto, Florida and Texas love Obamacare. Most of the Florida delegation have 100,000 plus constituents that will see their rates spike by 75% on average on November 1st. 3 days to fix it. The clock is ticking, and it's not going to get fixed because Democrats caused this explosion of the hyperinflation of our insurance industry many years ago with Obamacare. So it's a map that he shared. Republican-held U.S. House districts rely more on ACA insurance. Okay. Source KFF. Not familiar with KFF, but I guess, I'll just take it at face value. Population enrolled in the ACA marketplace, 10, 20, 30%, so on and so forth. A lot of old people live in Florida, so that's not exactly the most shocking news to read. All right, so from Congressman Greg Landsman, that's going to take away from gas, food, and everything else we need to live. Marquita faces tough choices when open enrollment starts on November 1st. With health insurance costs skyrocketing, she's worried about keeping the coverage her family and employees rely on. This fight is for people like Marquita. Well, they should have fixed this problem many years ago. They had plenty of opportunities to fix this, but Democrats 100% own this, even though they're trying to put it on Republicans. But, not to sound like a broken record, but let's take a listen.
Going to take away from gas, food, and everything else that we need to be able to stay and to live. My name is Marquita. I am a child care educator. I've been an educator for 20 years. We are taking part of the marketplace. As a business owner, we got an email stating that there was
don't have any rainbow flags up in her classroom.
18 to 20% on the premium. We have not got the letter for the renewal yet, but if it's that much, we won't be able to afford it. Have some compassion. Think about everybody this is affecting. It's affecting elder. It's affecting special needs. It's affecting children and women. It's affecting people that have pre-consistent additions that need to have preventive care. I mean, and the list goes on and on and on. I just hope that the government comes together because we are really kind of divided. And right now we have to come together to make this budget go by, and it has to be feasible for the people.
I know there might be hope for her. She might be able to easily be shown like that. This is completely the Democrats' fault, lady. This is 100% the Democrats' fault. And comment on the rainbow flag. I meant that in the context of the cult, the leftist cult, which has hijacked the rainbow flag over the years, and they've turned it into this like cultist monstrosity, trying to brainwash our kids into getting reassignment surgeries and beta blockers. And you should change your name to a girl's name, Timmy. You should change your name to Tammy. So on. whatever. So anyway, Rep John Carter, imagine voting against reopening the government 13 times and referring to the shutdown as your leverage, and then putting this out. The shutdown and the Americans' suffering that has come from it lays squarely on your shoulders, Chuck. Reopen the government already. They're responding to Chucky Schumer. Donald Trump is a vindictive and heartless man. Never before in American history has a president cut off SNAP during a shutdown, including Trump in his first term. But now he's manufacturing a hunger crisis to bludgeon the American people so he doesn't have to fix healthcare. He didn't cut anything off during the shutdown, like nothing whatsoever. I thought Trump was just like flying all over the world. I thought he was like way off in a far off place this entire time during the shutdown. So which is it? Is he busy in the Oval Office just cutting off welfare programs for everybody? Or is he flying around the world enjoying whatever it is that you think he's enjoying around the world? When in reality, he's actually securing more peace deals. Just secured his 10th one over the last week. So, of course, there's that. I mean, should I play this? Whatever. It should be fun, I guess.
Saturday,
Let's take a look.
First time in American history, a vicious, heartless president is cutting off food stamps to hungry children,
dare he?
elderly who can't afford enough food to feed themselves, veterans who are down on their luck.
Oh, it's so
all
bad.
Because he wants to use
Democrats.
these hostages so that Democrats will stop fighting for people's health care.
Dude, he is fighting for his life, man.
And provide SNAP
Democrats are
benefits
fighting
to
for their
tens of
lives.
millions who need it. This president is
You
a
think they
fucking
might have
liar.
bitten off more than they could chew?
He says there's no money to provide food stamps because of the shutdown. That's bullshit. His own agriculture.
Oh, he
department
used the
said there's
bullshit
plenty
word.
of money.
Oh, so he really
Every
means business.
president during shutdowns has provided the money that's needed. Even Trump in his first term. He is bludgeoning the American people using
bludgeoning.
innocent
Very big word.
to try and go along
So bloody.
with the cruel shutdown, which takes away health care from millions of Americans. He is the
Yeah,
most
totally not
vindictive
Obamacare.
politician America has ever seen, and the most heartless man America has ever seen in the president.
Yeah, 10 global peace deals. So evil. Oh my God. Here.
Every step of the way.
All right. I didn't want to cut him off early, just in case he had something important to say in those last 2 seconds. All right. Well, let's see. Of course. Oh my God, dude, that got brutally ratioed, like damn near 5-1. All right. I mean, I don't know if I should go through the comments. Of course, there's going to be plenty of memes, but lie counter 3, Mr. Schumer, King Schumer to some, is he himself holding food stamp payments hostage, or as he put it, leverage against the American people? The senator, a recipient of more than $1.5 million in campaign contributions from healthcare insurance industry, is demanding taxpayers give him $1.5 trillion so he can give to multi-billion-dollar insurance companies. So anyway, he's holding $100 billion. So he is holding $100 billion in food. In a further lie, it is the state he represents, New York State, is withholding SNAP benefits, not the president of the United States. The real interesting twist here, the money Mr. Schumer wants for companies like Blue Cross, which had revenue of $320 billion last year, was voted on by Congress to end this year. Yeah, that is true. Mr. Schumer cast the vote to end the funding. Now he's holding food stamps and payroll checks hostage, if others, to not overturn his previous vote. I mean, it's like the classic line from Democrats: accuse the other side of what you're already guilty of. That's like almost exclusively what they do these days. So anyway, he's got a couple of images, but did this result in the food stamps SNAP being cut off? Yes, the shutdown, exacerbated by Schumer's and Democrats' opposition, has led to the cutoff. November 1st, 2025, SNAP benefits will lapse. Yes, which we're aware of that. At least 25 Democratic-led states, including California and New York, immediately suspending benefits due to exhausted funds. Now, I mentioned this, and I didn't read this anywhere, but on the state level, the state government can actually allocate funds from one state program into the SNAP program because it's the state level that distributes SNAP benefits to the everyday recipients. So if they have something else out there, like in education, for example, if they got like $2 billion parked in something to be used for maybe like local transportation or something, they could collect those funds and put them into SNAP benefits to disperse to their local residents just inside the state level. But the comment that I made was, I bet that blue states, even if they had that kind of funding set aside, and they could easily move it over because some of them have a supermajority in their state level Congress, I bet they won't do it just to inflict the pain, because that is how evil the Democratic Party has really become, in my opinion. So anyway, okay, so the procedural vote failed for the 13th time. So just illustrating that that the funding bill did not pass the Senate due to Democrats for 13 times. So, all right, well, I can't get too hung up in the comments. I got a lot to get through. So we'll move on to the next thing. Congressman Zach Nunn. No food pantries, or an X for food pantries, are bracing for impact, which is bad. SNAP and WIC funding runs out in 3 days, bad. And military families are facing pay uncertainty, also bad. Every hour that shutdown drags on, the more Iowans are paying for it. Time for Senate Democrats to put country over party and pass a clean CR.
Well, first of all, another hour is too long. It's unconscionable. Look, here's the reality. I was just back in Iowa this week. I went to a food pantry. They're preparing for our food pantries to start running dry in the lead up to the holiday season and an extended shutdown. SNAP, WIC, all things that we have supported, that we've looked to fund, our military troops, including, guys I served with, 2,000 of whom are currently forward deployed, not getting their paycheck. The president's done the right thing in making sure that these guys were able to pay for one more pay period, but this doesn't last forever. Well, first of all...
All right. Well, there we go. We got that one done. And I think I'm going to take a quick second and I'm going to search. Let me jump over to Google. All right. So I'm going to search best food items to donate to food pantries. And just in case that you're curious about donating any kind of food, possibly this weekend or this week or next week, or at some point after the SNAP benefits end up drying up. So the best food to donate to food pantries are shelf-stable, non-perishable, and nutritious items like canned proteins, dry goods such as rice, pasta, and beans, canned fruits and vegetables, and breakfast items like oatmeal and whole grain cereal. Donating cooking essentials like oil and spices, as well as baby food and formula, are also very helpful. So things like canned tuna, canned salmon, chicken, other meats. So what was another one? Canned tomatoes, beans, jarred pastas, low sodium options, Pop-Tarts, for example, like granola bars, and let's see if they had anything else. So just like nut seeds, dry foods, baby food, shelf-stable milk. So things like that. So if you're looking to donate anything, I think peanut butter is another popular one. Like peanut butter and jelly is another good one. Especially if you have an Aldi. If you have a local Aldi, if you've not been to Aldi in a long time, they have absolutely revolutionized that grocery store. It is nothing like it was like when I was a kid back in the 90s. It is completely different. It's an entirely different store. They've got fresh meat. I mean, I know there's different schools of thought on the quality of the meat, but they do have fresh meat there. They have a meat section. They've got, tons of different canned items. They've got a lot of name brand stuff now too, by the way. And yeah, so for everything that was on that list, Aldi carries all of that. So, and you can get it a lot cheaper, even if you went there as opposed to a place like Walmart even. All right. Senator Jackie Rosen, another Democrat. The Trump administration is choosing not to use emergency food assistance funding that helps nearly 500,000 Nevadans put food on the table. It's cruel. It's so emotionally cruel. Nevadans shouldn't be punished because Washington Republicans refused to negotiate to reopen the government, and I'm glad to see Nevada AG standing up for SNAP. So you see how she plugged in the word negotiate to reopen because, they're almost getting to the point where they can't exactly not own the shutdown because they're saying, well, it's the Republicans' fault because they're not going to renegotiate the Obamacare monstrosity that we started. So anyway, she replied with Nevada Attorney General. Attorney General Ford joined 22 attorneys general and 3 governors in filing a lawsuit against the USDA and Secretary Rollins for threatening to suspend SNAP benefits. So you're going to sue them for threatening something. All right, well, this move would put food access for 40 million Americans, including nearly 500,000 Nevadans at risk. I mean, yeah, you can go sue your little asses off. I mean, it could all be fixed within minutes, as we've already stated multiple times at this point. Attorney General Ford sues Trump administration over threats to Nevadans' SNAP benefits. So, all right, well, good luck with that. I mean, if you want to pause and read that, you're welcome to. But I'm going to move on to the next thing. Oh, shit, or not. Hold on. I accidentally clicked back too far. So I got to go back to where I left off. Let's see. Okay, we're close. Close enough. All right, here we go. Moving on to Senate Republicans. False. So what is false? Let me read this first. So Senator Jeanne Shaheen, the Trump administration is weaponizing hunger as a political bargaining chip. When it comes down to it, this is a choice, and they're choosing to not feed kids, seniors, veterans, and even working families instead of doing everything possible to get food assistance to those in need. Food aid for 42 million imperiled by shutdown politics as Trump tests the law. I don't know what news site that's from. Not familiar, but anyway, the Democrats said that, and Senate Republicans replied with President Trump cannot legally use contingency funds for regular SNAP benefits. Senate Democrats like Senator Shaheen made a choice to vote against funding SNAP 13 times, which they did. Because if you voted no against funding the federal government, you are effectively voting no to pass benefits or pass money for SNAP benefits and funding the troops and funding air traffic control and funding TSA and funding literally everything else that's shut down in the government right now. They voted against all of those things 13 times. And another one from Senate Republicans, the president can't use emergency funds for regular SNAP benefits. Even if he could, the emergency fund is also billions of dollars short. It wouldn't cover the cost of regular SNAP benefits, which we learned maybe at maximum it'll be 2, maybe 3 weeks. The only way to fund SNAP is for Senator Schumer to end this shutdown. And Senator Schumer said, Donald Trump is manufacturing a hunger crisis, which, by the way, got ruthlessly ratioed again. SNAP benefits are about to run out for 42 million Americans, and Donald Trump has ordered the USDA to not use about $6 billion in emergency reserves to keep SNAP funded. No explanation, just cruelty. Donald Trump is picking politics over the lives of hungry kids. So it's so funny, like where they try to paint him as like some evil villain twirling his mustache. But like only just a couple of weeks ago, he brokered with 35 different countries. I think the majority of them were Muslim or Middle Eastern countries to end the war between Israel and Palestine. He was the guy that brokered the whole thing. Oh, but he's like so nefariously evil that he's willing to let 42 million Americans just starve for really no apparent reason other than just F everybody. I mean, dude, like his freaking slogan is America first, for crying out loud. But we all know that Republicans are on the right side of this. Crystal clear. All right, Senate Republicans this time. Voters know that Mallory McMorrow is completely out of touch with Michigan. Quote, I am offended by her campaign, saying they are reaching out to rappers and influencers. Besides her lack of experience, black voters have little reason to back McMorrow. She won't represent them. And Democrats, they almost never do. The only thing they'll represent them on is just trying to dump more entitlement programs and welfare benefits into their laps. Just trying to keep them poor. That's what they're trying to do. Because you can't save money when you're on government benefits. You can't. You can't own, I think it's like $2,000 in assets. You can't have more than $2,000 in assets or else they take your benefits from you. That's how fucked up that system is. Anyway, so Deadline Detroit from Mongo. Why do Michigan Democrats build up inexperienced politicians like Mallory McMorrow and ignore black candidates? DeadlineDetroit.com. So I don't think I'm really going to get through this, but at the very least, I'll link it. But anyway, so the author is a political commentator, Adolph Mongo. Politician Mallory McMorrow is a name that should make voters wonder about the state of the Democratic Party in Michigan. A state senator, McMorrow represents parts of Clawson, Detroit, Royal Oak, Beverly Hills, Ferndale, Huntington Woods, Oak Park, Pleasant Ridge, and Royal Oak Township. She became the flavor of the month in the Democratic Party in 2022 for a fiery response to a Republican state legislator from Brighton who accused her of wanting to groom and sexualize kindergartners and teach that 8-year-olds are responsible for slavery. I can already see where that's coming from. That was pretty popular among Democrats back then. And have you noticed how quickly they put all of that into the back burner? Even to the point where Target wasn't even selling LGBT stuff this year. Did anybody notice that? And the same with all the Democrat politicians. Remember when they had like rainbows around their profile pictures, like on Facebook and X and Instagram and all those social media platforms? This year, they didn't do that. They were all radio silent as far as the LGBT thing went this year. Quite interesting how they just conveniently forget. All right, McMorrow's response to State Senator Lana Theus thrust her in the Nationals' limelight, resulting in the party declaring her a rising star and featuring her as one of the speakers of the Democratic National Convention last year in Chicago on day one. Anyway, I don't want to get too far into this. This isn't really all that swamp related, but it'll be linked if you want to take a look. And move on to the next topic. FBI Director Kash Patel. We're heading into the crime segment of the show. The threats against President Trump allegedly posted by this individual are heinous and have no place in our society. Let this be a message. Anyone who threatens violence against public officials or any American will be found and brought to justice. I think we have the article, which he linked. Here we go. And it's going to come from Fox News. And Turning Point table flipper threatened Trump, arrested by feds after firing from teaching assistant job. FBI. Wow, dude. I may have to actually look for that because I think that had to do with Steven Crowder, didn't it? I just heard about this today, but I think, yeah, here it is. Like he flipped his table over. Maybe it wasn't Steven Crowder. I read somewhere that he was there or something. Or maybe it was like a change my mind type thing, which is done by Steven Crowder. I don't know. But anyway, yeah, it doesn't look like that Steven was involved with that. So anyway, a former teaching assistant who was fired by Illinois State University was arrested in a joint operation by FBI and Secret Service agents on Tuesday. Derek Lopez, 27, has been charged with threatening President Trump, according to the Bureau. Quote, the arrest follows a month-long investigation coordinated with the above agencies, which also included the Illinois State University Police Department, regarding Lopez's online and in-person activities, according to an FBI memo obtained by Fox News Digital. Quote, Lopez is alleged to have recently made threats against a sitting president, which prompted the current federal charges. And he made his first court appearance on Wednesday afternoon. FBI Director Kash Patel described the alleged threats as heinous. The threats against President Trump allegedly posted by this individual are heinous and have no place in American society. Let this be a message to all who consider threats of violence not just against public officials, but any American, that this FBI will find you and bring you to justice. I want to thank our local partners, the El Paso PD in Illinois, as well as USSS, who assisted us with this case. Lopez, who was a graduate student, was fired from his role as a teaching assistant at Illinois State University after a viral video showed him flipping over a table that belonged to Turning Point USA chapter members on campus. Oh, shit. Sorry, I muted myself. Anyway, he was seen in the video speaking to a man next to where the conservative group was promoting an upcoming appearance by political comedian Alex Stein. Quote, well, you know, Jesus did it, so, you know, I gotta do it, right? Lopez told the man before flipping the table over. Thanks, guys. Have a great day, he said before walking away. While Illinois State University does not comment specifically on personnel matters, we can confirm Derek Lopez had been relieved of his duties as a graduate teaching assistant pending further investigation, the school confirmed on October 20th. Lopez had already been arrested by local police for the table flipping incident. He was charged with disorderly conduct and criminal damage to property. Illinois State University declined to comment. Well, I mean, I don't think it's really needed for them to comment. It's good that we heard that he lost his job over it because he absolutely deserved that. All right, and let's head to the next crime item from AG Pam Bondi. Let this serve as a reminder that if you commit violence against a law enforcement officer, you will face severe consequences. And she's responding to acting U.S. Attorney Bill Esseley. Promises made, promises kept. The president and AG Pam Bondi made clear that we will find, arrest, and charge anyone who attacks our federal agents. This morning, we arrested 10 defendants for engaging in violence against officers and property earlier this year in connection with anti-immigration enforcement protests. They are now in federal custody. Among those arrested is Isai Carrillo, who was part of a violent group that attacked and threw rocks at federal agents as they exited the Glass House marijuana farm raid this summer. Peaceful protest is protected. Violence is not. Agitators who harm our officers, agents, and property will be brought to justice. And we've got video on this. So let's take a look at this.
Road, and then shortly after that is when we started seeing pepper balls being fired back towards
you can definitely tell this is California because it's the news helicopter. They're always up in the air filming shit.
I guess they can find on the ground and starting to throw them back towards federal agents.
Namely police chases. They're always all over police chases.
And you see some of these protesters
why did it get so quiet all of a sudden?
Projectiles, rocks there. Look at that. Wow. Hurling them at these white vans. And you see there.
Yeah, busted window.
The driver's side window almost completely shattered. See it. Wow, look at that.
Assault on a federal officer. What a fucking retard, man.
Some of these
fucking
protesters
retarded.
Wearing hoodies, hiding their faces. That's been a question surrounding this entire debate.
Yeah, they're busting all the windows there, too.
Rocks there. Look at that. Wow.
Unbelievable, dude. And they...
And
they don't have the authority to use live fire or like fucking shoot them.
Their bodies, their bikes.
Look, there's somebody sitting right there. Like they probably got injured.
These vans from leaving this farm there.
Can we say assault with a deadly weapon at least?
You know, assume that they don't want these vans to leave because they are conducting these raids.
I cannot believe that they didn't fucking shoot them.
Laborers who work
agents are armed. They should be armed.
and then taking them.
Because what if the immigrants that they were trying, the farm they were raiding, what if they were armed?
The crowd runs as
like, come on, dude. Pepper balls ain't good enough.
Not
Not for people hurling rocks at you.
Where protesters have been facing off with Homeland
And for the record, I'm not saying kill them all. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying they should defend themselves.
You can also see more federal
with deadly force if needed.
Gas to push back protesters. Barricaded road and the other, where trucks are trying to get in, even emergency vehicles.
Textbook obstruction. When they're blocking a road, that is obstruction, punishable by 8 years in prison. I've said that a million times on the show already.
Stay with NBC4 for continuing coverage of today's immigration operation in Ventura County.
The reason why I keep bringing that up is because federal agents, they keep refusing to arrest them for that. Even though the Trump administration keeps saying they're going to crack down on these protesters, and they really aren't. I mean, they cracked down on these guys.
Amigos, me acerqué tanto que personas estaban lanzando piedras de atrás de mí y pues me estaba protegiendo la nuca. Por eso bajé el teléfono, mil disculpas. Ahí se hizo lo que se pudo, amigos. Miren nada más.
Well, they're all in prison now, so I guess we can rest easy at this point. Because, yeah, I mean, if you watched that the day that happened, I mean, that, yeah, of course, that would be beyond frustrating to see. Especially if you're on the side of law and order and you're seeing federal agents, dude, federal agents. And I said it a few weeks ago that federal agents, they apparently have way less power than I thought they did. I thought they had, like, no jurisdiction limitations. I thought they had full arrest power, whether if they're like a marshal or a DEA agent or an FBI agent. I thought, like, if they see somebody breaking the law or somebody's breaking the law in front of them, they have the full authority to arrest at any time. Apparently they don't. Evidently they don't, because they could have, I don't know, man, they could have arrested all of them. I mean, they probably had enough agents to at least get the handful of people that were throwing rocks at them, but I don't know, man, especially if they come out guns blazing. Like I said, I'm not all about, shooting and killing people, but I know it's not exactly, federal agents' policy to fire a few rounds in the air as a deterrent. I'm sure they're probably not allowed to do that. That's probably a no-no. All right, so we've got this one also from FBI Director Kash Patel. The FBI today arrested 9 violent agitators in Los Angeles for their roles in a June protest where law enforcement officers were trapped under a bridge and attacked with Molotov cocktails. Violence against those who protect our communities will never be tolerated. This FBI stands firmly with the men and women of law enforcement. Justice will always come for those who bring chaos to our streets. So they're getting caught up. It's taken them a couple of months, but they're catching up to them. So hopefully we'll hear more and more of the arrests that occurred today or yesterday with regard to all the violence that happened over the summer. And from the U.S. Marshal Service, child murderer suspect is behind bars, arrested by Memphis Safe Task Force, which that's pretty cool. Like they're up well over 1,000 arrests at this point. I think they actually crossed the 2,000 arrest mark by now, because they moved. Well, they didn't move from D.C. to Memphis, but like Trump took his operation that, well, not he was running, but that he, essentially put his name on, really, or directed to happen in D.C., where they were rounding up all the criminals and crime just like dropped like a rock in D.C. And it even got to the point where the D.C. mayor, who was hardcore against the whole federal takeover of D.C. for crime crackdown, dead set against it at first. And within like 2 weeks, she ended up signing an executive order directing all D.C. police to cooperate fully with federal agents indefinitely. And she did not even put an expiration date on the executive order, which I believe is fairly common to put an expiration date on some executive orders, but not that one. So anyway, this is from Memphis. The Memphis Safe Task Force announces the successful arrest of Jalen Thomas, 19 years old, in Memphis, Tennessee. He was charged with 2 counts of reckless endangerment with a deadly weapon, 1 count of criminal attempt, first-degree murder, 1 count first-degree murder, and 1 count of employing a firearm with intent to commit a felony. These charges stem from a shooting incident in the 700 block of Josephine Street on April 11th of 2025, where a 2-year-old child suffered fatal wounds. At approximately 12:15 p.m. on October 28th, Members of the Memphis Safe Task Force conducted a coordinated effort and arrested Toms in the 1000 block of South Lauderdale Street. I think they meant Thomas. Looked like it was a spelling error. Anyway, so the Memphis Safe Task Force is an interagency coalition of federal, state, and local law enforcement partners, continues to demonstrate the power of collaboration in advancing public safety. This arrest underscores the task force's mission to make America safe again and to make Memphis safe. So there you go. Good news coming from the Memphis Safe Task Force. And moving on to Commander Op-at-Large, C.A. Gregory. I believe that's the CA is California. I've commented on his post multiple times, but I always forget if that CA is for California, but I believe it is. So Chicago, the Green Machine is working hard to make your city safer. Operation Midway Blitz arrested yet another illegal alien from Venezuela. The U.S. has no place for members of the foreign terrorist organization Trinidad. Arrest date was on October 11th of 2025. And they've got the image of the asshole himself that they arrested and going to deport him. I'm assuming they're deporting him. They didn't say whether if he committed any kind of crime to the level where they're going to throw his ass in prison for an X number of years that the taxpayers are going to have to pay for. But no, it looks like he's probably just getting deported. Anyway, Homeland Security just hanging out. This suspect, MS-13 gang member from El Salvador, thought it would be a good idea to flee American law enforcement in Texas. Wrong. IceGov arrested criminal illegal alien Marlon Audir Gomez Hernandez after he climbed through ceiling panels of a business, made his way to the roof, and got stuck on the business's sign. That's hilarious. Yeah, he did. Anyway, this is just the latest example of an illegal alien putting the local community in danger by fleeing law enforcement. Thanks to President Trump and Secretary Noem, this gangbanger is off this sign and off our streets. And by the way, Secretary Noem, that's Kristi Noem, Secretary of Homeland Security. And moving on to FBI's Most Wanted. The FBI offers a reward of up to $25,000 for information leading to the location and arrest of Miguel Angel Aguilar Ojeda, wanted for allegedly killing his wife on October 27th of 2024 in Philadelphia. So it was just slightly over a year ago. And happened in Philly. There's an image of him. If you know this man, you can get up to a $25,000 reward. Oh my God, dude, that's a huge image. Didn't have to be that big. Damn, man, FBI going way big. All right. Yeah, there we go. That's a much better image. So there's his image. Born in Mexico, 240 pounds. So he's a big boy. 5 foot 4 inches tall. So he's a really big boy. August 5th, 1990. Black hair. He's a painter and a construction worker. And he also speaks English as well. He's got tattoos on both of his wrists, including the name Miguelito, Miguelito, in black script with a yellow crown on his right wrist. 25 grand, folks. That's good money, man. I mean, hell, man, I could use any dollar that's given to me. That'd be crazy, dude. I don't know if like 25 grand is life-changing, but it would certainly help a lot. All right, Secretary Marco Rubio. The United States is in close contact with the governments of Jamaica, Haiti, Dominican Republic, and the Bahamas as they confront the devastating impacts of Hurricane Melissa. We have rescue and response teams heading to affected areas along with critical life-saving supplies. Our prayers are with the people of the Caribbean. And I have some highlights of the hurricane that hit Jamaica yesterday. 185-mile-an-hour winds. Absolutely catastrophic. I think that is in the top three strongest winds of a hurricane to ever make landfall ever, if not at least in the Caribbean. But yeah, it's absolutely in the top 5, but I think it's number 3 in the top 3 of like most powerful hurricanes to make landfall anywhere. All right, so Oversight Committee. The Oval Office was occupied, but Joe Biden wasn't running the show. Biden was in physical and mental decline. His aides didn't even know who was using the auto pen to sign executive actions and pardons. This is the scandal of the century. Read our report. Well, don't mind if I do, Oversight Committee. We will jump into that from oversight.house.gov. And we have the Biden auto pen presidency: decline, delusion, and deception in the White House. The biggest political scandal in American presidential history. Chairman James Comer and oversight Republicans have released a bombshell report exposing the truth behind Joe Biden's cognitive decline and who was really running the show. Through transcribed interviews and depositions with Biden's own former senior staff, we uncovered that while Biden struggled to perform his duties, critical decisions were made behind closed doors and without a clear chain of command. That included using an auto pen to sign executive actions, pardons, and major policy directives without clear approval from Joe Biden. And we heard during one of those depositions that was released, which I put on the show, or I played the video last night. One of his advisors said that he believed that Hunter Biden was living with Joe Biden in the president's residence in the White House close to the end of his term. So he was kind of alluding to the probability that Hunter Biden was making a lot of decisions on the president's behalf. And of course, we knew Hunter Biden was there. I mean, where the hell do you think the cocaine came from? So anyway, staffers close to Biden admitted his decline was real. Shockingly, some did not even know who was authorizing signatures in his name or using the auto pen. Others invoked the Fifth, refused to testify, and stonewalled the committee at every turn. This isn't just a cover-up. It's the biggest political scandal in American presidential history. So we have a video. This is probably the video that I played yesterday, but let me see. I'm going to come back to that real quick. Oh my God, dude, this is so long. I didn't realize how long this was. Wow, man, this is going to take like all day to get through, to be honest. Well, those are all articles, but here, I'll take a couple of these video clips, though. I'll play a couple of them. I do believe that the first one, or was it up here? Yeah, it was this one. This one, I believe that I already did. Yeah, I definitely played this one yesterday. It was about 9 minutes in length. So I'll grab a couple of these, though. Transcribed interview of Andrew Bates. Let's see. Anita Dunn. That one might be interesting to read or to watch. Ashley Williams, maybe. Bruce Reed. This, or is it Ian Sams? I think Ian Sams. Jeff Zients. That would be a good one. Corinne, whatever. Mike Donalon. Neera Tanden. Wow, man, they've got all of them on here. Ron Klain. Steve Ricchetti. Okay, so let me go up here to the top. I'm trying to think back to the video that I played yesterday and which ones looked the most interesting to watch. So let me do the Anita Dunn. Oh my God, dude, 4 hours. 4 hours? I ain't doing 4 hours, man. Come on, man. No, it would literally take 24 hours to go through this entire webpage. I didn't know it was that. I figured it'd be like 5 minutes of highlights. Dude, they had the entire transcribed interview and the whole deposition right here on video from August 7th, 2025. Okay, well, obviously I can't go through all of the information, but I am absolutely going to link this in the description below, and I'll make an effort to make it the top link if you want to go through this yourself. Lots of videos to check out on this if you want to dig in deep into the Biden auto pen presidency decline, delusion, and deception in the White House, which is a real big political scandal. And in fact, the Department of Justice, they are investigating it right now, and they're using evidence collected from those video interviews, actually, and they're looking into it right now. I'm not sure what could legally be done about it, but if the DOJ is looking at it, there's probably an army of legal scholars and lawyers, and there's a lot of people poring over it to see if there's anything they can potentially do as far as potentially throwing out the pardons. I'm not sure, or maybe possibly presenting a case to the Supreme Court, maybe. So I guess we'll just have to stay tuned. All right, from the Oversight Committee, watch. Ian Sams, one of Joe Biden's spokespersons, met with him only twice in over 2 years. Then he would go on live television and say he interacted with him every single day. He was lying to the American people to cover up for Biden's decline. So at least we could play a little bit of it. We could watch this at least. 2.5 minutes.
How often would you say that you interacted with the president in person?
I interacted with him pretty infrequently.
So weekly, monthly, what are we talking about?
Very infrequent. I think I met with the president a handful of times during my tenure in the White House.
I want to introduce Exhibit 2 as it's being passed around. It's a tweet from Alex Thompson at Axios summarizing, he pulled a couple quotes of an interview you did on MSNBC, and one of the quotes says, "When I deal with him, he is sharp," him being President Biden, and he is asking tough questions. Do you recall this?
I got to say, that doesn't look anything like the president that I know. When I deal with him, he's sharp, he's asking tough questions. That's the President Biden that so many of us experience every single day.
So every single day.
The basis for this statement was your interactions somewhere between 1 and 5 times.
Yes.
Okay. Do you think that's a
lying to the American people?
I think it was pretty direct and honest, and said that when I do deal with him, he's sharp, and he was
spoken like a true Democrat
during my meetings with him.
I was totally honest. They don't know what's real and what isn't at this point.
24
what's
months.
honest and what's dishonest.
That's not exactly a large scope of knowledge on how he interacts with staff. You don't think it's missing some context?
I don't.
Do you think that statement suggests that you deal with him more than you did?
I don't think so. I mean, I spoke about my
You
own
said every single day, dude.
That's the President Biden that we experience every day.
Every day, every single day.
To your recollection, 4 meetings, 2 were in person.
2 that were, the 2 that I described to you that I, at the very onset in the Oval, one was a Zoom where he was at Camp David, and I was a participant in the meeting. The phone call, I think there was another meeting, or another engagement, but I can't remember off the top of my head what it was. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I'm just trying to get an understanding of. So the immunity decision was virtual with him at Camp David. There was a phone call regarding Hunter Biden's testimony.
Yes.
An in-person meeting regarding Hunter Biden's testimony. And one other in-person meeting?
About Special Counsel Hur's testimony.
About Special Counsel. So 2 in-person meetings.
Sure, at least that, yes.
Okay.
All right. Well, absolutely embroiled in scandal, needless to say. Anyway, I guess we'll stay tuned for that to see what the DOJ ends up doing with all of that info. HHS Rapid Response, Dr. Macri, FDA. I've got quite a few of these clips to play because they made some announcements with regard to healthcare, which is some news that we could probably use right about now. But anyway, they said, Dr. Macri, by the way, he's the head of the FDA, the official account of the 27th commissioner of the FDA. And he says, if you haven't noticed, healthcare costs have gone way up since the promise of the Affordable Care Act to make the price of healthcare insurance premiums more affordable. Yeah, it did everything but make it affordable.
There's been a lot of talk
unaffordable as possible
about healthcare costs, a lot of talk about reducing drug prices. But as you've seen from the Oval Office, thanks to the good work of Dr. Mehmet Oz and his team at CMS, you're now seeing medications come down to a price point of pennies on the dollar. Reforms that have been discussed for 35 years but have never translated into action in most favored nation status pricing. I'm happy to contribute with our reform at the FDA to this incredible movement to lower drug prices, not by 1 or 2%, but significantly. If you haven't noticed, healthcare costs have gone way up since the promise of the Affordable Care Act to make the price of health insurance premiums more affordable, lowering them by $2,500. Within 7 years, they went up by $2,500, the opposite direction of the promise.
Even more than that for some people.
The fastest growing area of healthcare spending in the United States is drug spending. And the fastest area of drug spending increases is with this new class of medicines called biologics. That's because they are derived from cell lines. It's an expensive process to develop biologics. So they are naturally going to cost more. But not 1,000 times more, not 10,000 times more.
All right. Yeah. Well, to be continued. I mean, what is the percentage now of Americans that are on pharmaceutical? Is it over 50% at this point? Here, let me just check real quick. What percentage? I'm just curious because I thought it was close to, if not over 50%, which is freaking alarming as hell. To think that half of our population, I'm hoping it's less. I mean, I hope it's like way less. That would certainly be nice, but I just got a feeling that it's up 70%. I don't know what that was all about. All right, so I'll play one more clip and then I'll go back to that and see what that says. So this is from Dr. Oz. We'll hear what he has to say.
CMS's job is to pay the bills. We've focused on improving reimbursement models. We've done all kinds of innovative things under Abe Sutton's leadership at CMMI. We're working with the private sector. A good example of that is just on Monday, one of the leading pharmacy benefits management companies, the middleman company of this country, announced after discussions with us that they will voluntarily change their business model. If you didn't see this news, it is big. As the Secretary Kennedy tweeted out on it, this is allowing this industry to transform itself from a rebate-based system where you hide the ball to one of ultimate transparency where everyone's going to see, including employers, who will no longer be able to hide behind PBMs as they sometimes allow extra funds to be channeled back to them through the rebate system. Now everyone's going to know what the numbers are. And to make sure that's true, Trump RX is going to publish the numbers of all the medications and their pricing, including the generics and biosimilar competitors, so individuals can make the right choice for them and will have options.
Hell yeah, man. Let's go. Yeah, especially with rebates. I think everybody knows how many hoops you have to jump through just to get freaking rebates, not just on drugs, but on anything, really. All right, let's see what this says. Approximately 60% of American adults take at least one prescription drug on a regular basis, based on recent surveys from the Kaiser Family Foundation, KFF. This figure comes from their October 2024 poll, which found that 6 in 10 adults report currently using at least one prescription medication, a trend consistent with earlier data like the 2023 KFF survey showing 61%, while some 2025 sources such as Civic Science report slightly higher at 68% for daily use. KFF provides a reliable benchmark from a leading health policy organization. Fuck, man, that is so high. No wonder our healthcare insurance industry is hyperinflated because everybody is just, they're just all using it. Everybody's using it constantly. I mean, it's like, dude, no wonder. It would be like comparing to like 68% of people who drive a vehicle get into a car crash every year. I mean, I don't know if that's a good enough analogy, but I don't think it's really too far from it. But 68%. Now, I'm not going to follow it up with the question, but I'd be curious to know if you include over-the-counter medication, because there's a lot of people that take like Tylenol PM to help them sleep every night. I bet if you throw all that in, it's probably even a more shocking percentage. But yeah, the majority of our country takes prescription medications on a regular basis. Absolutely just freaking mind-boggling. You know, like no wonder Secretary Kennedy has been trying like hell for years and years to be in a position where he can try to get America healthy from a position of power. So, all right, anyway, okay, just making sure I'm going to play the same one again. So this one from Dr. Oz also, the current system has slowed the ability of insurgents to enter the market, and that stops today under the leadership of Dr. Macri of the FDA.
Insurgents should be allowed to enter the marketplace to appropriately compete. That's what the ecosystem of fairness should represent. That's what's been hindered with this 40-year history of one by one having to break through barriers, with this being one of the largest and perhaps the final major barrier to ensure that what started with the Hatch-Waxman Act can now reach full fruition and allow the intent of Congress to be heard widely, which is generic products and biosimilars, when they are appropriately to be released because patents have expired, should allow a competition, not a crony capitalism, to run the market. The current system has slowed the ability of insurgents to enter the market, and that stops today under the leadership of Dr. McCary.
Well, look, and I know that a lot of people, they take prescriptions because they have to. Like if you've got like diabetes or if you have heart issues, like there's a lot of different prescriptions that you just must take to stay alive. But especially if you're a younger American, like talk about now being the time to get yourself healthy, if at all possible, or even going to get a second opinion as to what you're taking. Maybe you could get along without taking a prescription medication and being able to just, live your life without being in the clutches of big pharma. And I'm sure a sizable percentage of that 60% of people, it probably has to do with psychological. I believe 30% of adult females are on some kind of psych medication, whether if it's like not insomnia. What was the big one I was thinking of? Anxiety. I think it was anxiety. Also, like attention deficit is another popular one that people take, which I think more men than women are prescribed with ADHD or diagnosed with ADHD. But I mean, it's a lot of those different types of medications too, which those tend to be controlled substances like Xanax and Adderall and, the stuff that you really get pretty hardcore addicted to, which, one could probably make the argument that was kind of their plan all along. Like, remember back in the early 2000s when they said OxyContin wasn't addictive, that it was a timed release capsule and, therefore you can't get addicted to it. And we saw which direction that nightmare went into. All right, so this is HHS again, Dr. Macri. These reforms have tremendous implications for everyone and every stakeholder in healthcare. Just a quick 27 seconds on this one.
These reforms have tremendous implications for everyone and every stakeholder in healthcare. I want to thank the staff at the FDA. They've been wanting to do this for a long time. People have been talking about it, and we're doing it. The implications are broad. This series of reforms has implications for community pharmacies, PBMs, hospitals, and Medicare and Medicaid.
Well, and every little bit helps, but this sounds like this is going to help a little more than a little bit. So I believe, yeah, this is the last one I got. So to finish it up, this is Secretary Kennedy. It can cost hundreds of millions to us, the federal taxpayers, just to bring one biosimilar to American patients. That changes today. So let's see what he has to say.
Block pharmacists and doctors from switching patients to lower cost options. The lobby invented a fake distinction between biosimilars and interchangeable biosimilars. The result has been sky-high costs, endless red tape, and a biosimilar market that still lags far behind Europe's. It can cost hundreds of millions to us, the federal taxpayer, just to bring one biosimilar to American patients. That changes today. Under President Trump's leadership, we are ending this unscientific and corrupt system. We're cutting through the barriers that protect monopolies and opening the gates to affordable, life-saving medicine for the American people.
All right, man. Like I said, great news. It's good news. Of course, it's news that you're not going to hear a single Democrat talking about because it's counter to their argument about your healthcare costs going up by X amount of hundreds of percentage points. And, you know, they're all given their own, what seems to be made up numbers. I mean, I heard like yesterday, Chuck Schumer said that some premiums are going up $2,000 a year. And I heard the same day yesterday that some other Democrat said $20,000 for some middle-class family that it's going up. And then I heard Chuck Schumer today say anywhere from $2,000 to $20,000. So they're just throwing out numbers all over the place. So anyway, I'll just move on to Rapid Response 47 from the Vice President, VP Vance. I've never woken up and thought to myself, how do I make myself president of the United States? What I wake up and think to myself is, how do I do a good job as vice president?
How do you feel about that? And have you talked to the Secretary Rubio about it?
I've joked with the secretary about it. So the president first raised this with me probably 6 months or so ago.
Right.
During just, one of our private lunches that we try to get lunch every couple of weeks just to catch up on what's going on and talk about things. He mentioned it probably 6 months or so ago. And I mentioned to the secretary in jest, but it feels so premature because we're still so early. And what I always say to people is, if we take care of business, the politics will take care of itself. And we're 9 months into this thing.
A lot of people say that he's got it for 2028.
Look, the thing that
I've certainly heard that
is that Biden left us a terrible affordability crisis. We've got to make life more affordable for American citizens. Again, we've chipped away at that problem, but there's a lot more work to do there.
Plus, America's been asking for a young president for a long time.
American people elected me to be vice president. I'm going to work as hard as I can to make the president successful over the next 3 years and 3 months. And if we get to a point where something else is in the offer, let's handle it then. But let's at least get through the next couple of years and do good work for the American people before we talk about politics.
The president doesn't mention who will be running for president and who vice president. Now, everyone assumes it would be you, but Marco Rubio is 13 years older. He's run for president
before.
He's
ran. He's
would
ran
there
before.
Be any tension there?
First of all, no, there's not going to be any tension. Marco is my best friend in the administration. He and I work a lot together.
No, I'd hedge my bet on JD Vance.
A lot of the good work that we've been able to do as an administration is because we're all able to work together. And again, this is why I say worrying too much about the politics actually, I think, makes you worse at the job that you have. I never want to wake up. And so far, I've never woken up and thought to myself, how do I make myself president of the United States? What I wake up and think to myself is, how do I do a good job as vice president? And I think Marco Rubio asks himself, how do I do a good job as Secretary of State? And that should be the question that each of us keeps on asking ourselves.
Look, and I've lived in Florida for over 20 years, and obviously I'm still here. I live in the St. Pete area. So, Marco Rubio, he was the senator of the state of Florida for a long time. But for some reason, he's just, I don't know if I'd say that he rubs me the wrong way, but I've never had really a particular liking for him. He's just always, to me, come across as a little bit too much of a political stiff. But that has largely changed over the last year, especially with him being the Secretary of State. So, I mean, I think he might have the magic to be, charismatic enough to run for president. So, not so sure, but I actually found out recently that I'm older than JD Vance. That was the moment that I realized, wow, I'm actually getting old. That blew my mind. It absolutely blew my mind when I just checked his age. And I think we were born in the same year, but yeah, that was kind of mind blowing. Like anybody who's middle-aged or maybe a little bit older than that, like I'm sure most people probably have that realization. There's like the one moment in your life when you realized, holy shit, I'm actually like, I'm not young anymore. I'm not young anymore. All right, whatever. So I got another one from Vice President J.D. Vance. VP Vance on President Trump's commitment to America First peace negotiations. Quote, the president asks himself the question, what is it? Oh, wait, hold on. Isn't that the same thing? Okay, yeah, I think it was the same interview, wasn't it? Well, see, I thought it was different because that one's 2 minutes. This one's only 1 minute, 1.5. They're both on the Pod Force One podcast. I think it's the same one, though.
Himself the question, what is in America's
Maybe not, though.
best interest? And his view is America getting more involved in the conflict is not in our interest. America bringing
maybe it is another section of it.
Is in our interest. And so everything that he's done, from the sanctions that he's done on Russian oil companies to the conversations he's had with Zelensky to actually shifting more of the burden to the Europeans. And I think one of the things that I was frustrated with under the Biden administration, I think a lot of Americans, even Americans who are very pro-supporting Ukraine, sort of threw up their hands and said, why aren't the Europeans doing more? The President of the United States has shifted a lot of that burden onto the Europeans, which I think most Americans think is a really good idea.
Oh, yeah,
it's
fantastic.
all motivated by the question of what is in America's best interest. And I think the president continues to be laser focused on bringing the conflict to a close. That's what he thinks is in our interest. That's what he's going to keep on working on.
So sanctions is part of it.
And sometimes that's going to mean carrots and sometimes that's going to mean sticks. And we're just going to have to keep working at it. And there's a give and take to this. As we've talked about, Miranda, before, sometimes it feels like we're making progress with the Russians. And sometimes it feels like we're making progress with the Ukrainians. And sometimes it feels like we're making progress with one or the other, but neither. And that's why you see the president constantly pushing, exercising American leverage, and we're just going to keep on working at it. I can't say where exactly it's going to go, but it's going to end eventually.
Yeah, I think we should have stayed out of the whole Ukraine situation from the get-go, but I mean, we obviously annihilated that fucking bridge. No thanks to friggin' Biden. All right, Secretary Chris Wright. California is one of the largest consumers of oil and gas in the country. Isn't that ironic? The noise about climate change is political posturing. They're doing nothing about climate change, but they are making energy more expensive in California. So I left a comment because this actually reminded me of a solar plant that is slated for closure in Southern California. And I said, matter of fact, California is dismantling one of its largest and most expensive solar fields ever built due to no return on investment, which taxpayers spent over $2.2 billion on. It's in Southern California. I can't remember the name offhand, but it was in the news a few weeks ago. But anyway, here, I'll play the video.
73% of the total energy consumed in the United States comes from oil and gas. It's a record high ever. The Biden administration passed $2 trillion of monies aimed towards fighting climate change.
Insane.
Oil, gas, and coal were 82% when they arrived and 82% when they left.
I asked, I just an offhand question to ask the Grok AI bot, if by rolling out renewable energy, will it ever reach a point where it will cost less to an everyday consumer of electricity? Would it ever cost more in the future than it costs now? And it concluded that in all likelihood, it will never cost less than it does currently. And then it got into the whole battery backup supply, and those have to be changed out every 10, 15 years. So, in essence, switching us to fully renewable energy would cost up to 3 times as much as it costs for us to use fossil fuel energy. And I thought that was interesting because Democrats are always talking about, well, if we spend $2 trillion on energy, then it's going to bring down our electric bills. It's going to be a lot cheaper. I mean, they said that a million fucking times. They've been saying that for the last decade, that by opening up all these solar fields and wind turbine fields, and that's going to bring down electric bills for everybody. And it was all bullshit the entire freaking time, man. It was all a giant scam.
A lot of money, a lot of regulations, a lot of laws. It doesn't move an energy system. California actually gets a greater percent of its energy from oil and gas than the rest of the country. But yet this political posturing, all this noise about climate change, they're not doing anything about climate change, but they are making energy massively more expensive in California. California gets 2/3 of its oil imported from the Middle East.
What?
America's a net oil exporter, but not
Don't they have a carbon
California.
tax too?
What does that mean? Higher gasoline prices, higher home heating prices, less jobs and opportunity in California. Common sense has got to return to the West Coast as well. California should be the land of opportunity, but state government, bad politics, bad regulations have just made things tougher on Californians. So yes, state governments matter, not just the federal government.
Wow, man. Well, I believe it was in Boulder, Colorado. That was in the news today that they're implementing a carbon tax, and apparently it's going to get challenged by the courts. Like they're going to be taken to court for it because it's absolutely ridiculous. Okay, from the Federal Reserve, read Chair Powell's full opening statement from the FOMC press conference. I'm not going to read the full statement, but at least I'll read the image, and I'll link this if you want to check that out. So it says, our monetary policy actions are guided by our dual mandate to promote maximum employment and stable prices for the American people. At today's meeting, the committee decided to lower the target range for the federal funds rate by 0.25 percentage point to 3 to 3 3/4, or hold on, let me read that again. So they decided to lower the target range for the federal funds rate by 0.25 percentage point to 3 3/4 to 4%. And it's tough to put that into words because, 3 3/4 to 4%. That's what they're looking at. So they're actually lowering the rates now. So I think that's probably going to be music to Trump's ears because he's been, shouting it at Chair Powell to do that basically since January, since the day he came back into office. So anyway, that was on October 29th of today. So I don't know, man. I think if they just keep lowering those percentage points, if it affects mortgages and mortgage loans, it's only going to cost housing to go up more. Anyway, Executive Assistant Commissioner Diane, let me get her full name. Diane J. Sabatino. Diane J. Sabatino. She says, not your average pillow talk. CBP Office of Field Operations, DFO Atlanta, they uncovered a network of importers disguising Chinese-made mattresses as pillows, recovering $45.5 million in evaded tariffs. $45.5 million recovered. Importers attempted to illegally transship Chinese mattresses as pillows. And I got one more. CBP uncovered a sticky rice situation. DFO in Florida uncovered shipments of fraudulently misidentified rice recovering $5.2 million in evaded tariffs. And yeah, so that also happened. Trade enforcement operation. So they tried to evade the tariffs, but didn't work. So they're busting Chinese imports, trying to skirt the tariffs. All right, Mike Lee, the war on American energy continues. The Supreme Court can stop it. Oh, so I got it right here. All right, I knew I read that in passing today with regard to the Boulder, Colorado situation, but I didn't realize till just now that I bookmarked it. So former Rep Jason Isaac says Boulder's climate lawyer just said the quiet part out loud. He admitted the city's lawfare against energy companies is a backdoor plan to impose a carbon tax, bankrupt U.S. energy producers, force green energy poverty on voters. Important analysis from former AG Barr. The Supreme Court can stop an unconstitutional carbon tax. The lawyer for a Colorado county lets the mask slip and reveals the agenda behind climate lawsuits. Yep, that is going to do nothing good for America at all. I mean, look, like what somebody mentioned, and the name escapes me, but they said there's a really good reason why China doesn't have solar fields all over the place and wind turbines, because it doesn't fucking work. That's why. It's very ineffective. So, I mean, is there... Oh, okay, here it is. All right. So it looks like it's on the Wall Street Journal, I believe. All right, so the Supreme Court can stop an unconstitutional carbon tax. Let's see, the lawyer... All right, so the Trump administration scored a major victory on October 17th by sinking what would have been the world's first global carbon tax at the United Nations International Maritime Organization. But an equally insidious carbon tax has been quietly advancing in county courthouses across the U.S. in the form of climate lawfare targeted almost exclusively at American industry. The Supreme Court has an opportunity to stop it. Over the past few years, blue states and municipalities have filed dozens of tort suits in state courts against American energy companies, claiming hundreds of billions of dollars in damages. One plaintiff-funded estimate recently claimed that the damages should total no less than $28 trillion, nearly the entire annual economic output of the U.S. The plaintiffs insist they are suing for local damages the way any plaintiff might and aren't trying to set global climate policy. But a few weeks ago, the mask slipped. David Bookbinder is Director of Law and Policy for the Environmental Integrity Project and a lawyer representing Boulder County, Colorado, in its climate suit against Suncor Energy and ExxonMobil. The Colorado Supreme Court ruled in his client's favor in May, and the defendants have asked the U.S. Supreme Court to hear their appeal. Mr. Bookbinder recently participated in a Federalist Society panel discussing that litigation. He acknowledged that the lawsuits were a political tool to achieve environmental policy goals that activists have been unable to win at the ballot box. Essentially, the tort liability is an indirect carbon tax, a quote, Mr. Bookbinder said. Quote, you sue an oil company is liable. The oil company then passes that liability on to the people who are buying its products. I would prefer an actual carbon tax, but if we can't get one of those, and I don't think anyone on this panel would agree that Congress is likely to take on climate change anytime soon. So this is rather, somewhat convoluted, a convoluted way to achieve the goals of a carbon tax. So essentially, sue the hell out of the oil companies, and then they're going to have to jack up their prices in order to pay for those lawsuit damages. And of course, you and me and every other regular person is going to have to pay for it. So in other words, what's he trying to get at? That gas is going to eventually cost, what, $12, $15, $20 a gallon, which is going to force us to not be able to drive anywhere. And that's just going to help them realize their 15-minute city agenda. And then they can further travel down that road, no pun intended, to the whole 100 million depopulation agenda that they've got toward the Great Reset 2030. Not to get all tinfoil hat conspiratorial, but I don't know, man. Kind of sounds like it might be up that alley. Mr. Bookbinder's admission confirms what critics of these suits have been saying all along. This litigation isn't about compensation, it's about coercion. Climate lawfare is a political strategy laundered through lawsuits designed to force a radical policy of energy poverty on a country whose elected representatives have repeatedly declined to adopt such destructive measures. Well, plus, at the end of the day, the American people are not going to vote for that, man. They're not going to vote for something that's going to end up costing an extreme amount of money based on quote unquote climate science that isn't really substantially rooted in reality at all. Dude, we're coming out of the last ice age. Of course, things are getting warmer. I mean, they've been saying that for decades and decades. It's all part of the process. We're coming out of the last ice age, obviously. So of course, the climate is going to warm very gradually. And it's not gonna cause, ocean levels to rise like 20 feet in 100 years and bury Florida underneath the ocean like by the year 2100, which is what they're still, gaslighting our young students, at least here in Florida, into trying to believe, terrifying my daughter when she was in middle school because she thought that the entire state was going to be sucked underneath the ocean by the year 2100, which is total fucking bullshit. I mean, look, like I said, I've been here 20 years. I've lived near the beach the entire time, near what's called Indian Shores, Indian Rocks Beach, down by Treasure Island, like that whole area. And I've been visiting the beach the entire time I've lived here. And the narrow beach that I live near, pretty narrow, hasn't lost an inch of sand. Not any of it to rising sea levels. I think it would have been noticeable that over a 20-year period, if they're talking the whole state or a substantial portion of the state getting flooded out by the year 2100, you think that it probably would have at least overtaken Pinellas County by now, but nope, hasn't done it because it's all fake. It's all bullshit. It's a fucking scam. All right, Mr. Bookbinder even described the endgame, bankrupting the American oil and gas industry. Once a single plaintiff secures a final judgment, he said a cascade of copycat lawsuits would follow, forcing every private energy company in the U.S. into insolvency. Quote, every defendant in all these cases immediately declares bankruptcy because they have to. But foreign-owned state oil and gas companies like Gazprom or the China National Petroleum Corporation would be spared. They can't be taken to state court because of the legal doctrine of sovereign immunity. Oh, how convenient. Whether this lawfare gambit works may now be tested at the highest level. The defendants in Suncor versus Boulder County squarely raised the question at the heart of all these lawsuits. Can states regulate emissions that take place outside their borders? They better not. More than a century of Supreme Court precedent indicates that the answer must be no. Disputes involving pollution that crosses state or international borders are the exclusive domain of federal law. If Colorado can regulate global emissions through its courts, what stops Texas from suing California over its emissions policies? The result would be what the Supreme Court has called a chaotic confrontation between states, with each imposing its preferred energy policy on the others. In this case, a policy that selectively punishes American companies while foreign state-owned producers get a free pass. This is precisely the kind of interstate conflict the Constitution's framers sought to prevent. So I think it's going to continue quite a ways from here. Well, maybe not. Maybe I can finish this up. Yeah, I'll go ahead and finish it. The plaintiffs have tried to avoid this issue by dressing their complaints up in the garb of state consumer protection or public nuisance law. They insist they aren't trying to regulate emissions, merely seeking compensation for local harms. The Colorado Supreme Court accepted that distinction, concluding that regulating pollution is different from holding upstream producers liable for selling the products that cause it. But then Mr. Bookbinder said the quiet part out loud. Even if he hadn't, the argument doesn't pass the smell test. As the Second U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals, the only federal appellate court to consider a climate tort case on the merits, recognized, quote, artful pleading cannot transform, in quote, such a complaint, quote, into anything other than a suit over global greenhouse gas emissions, end quote. Letting states rule supreme would create what James Madison called an inversion of the fundamental principles of all government, creating a monster in which the head was under the direction of the members. Thanks to Mr. Bookbinder, the fiction that these are run-of-the-mill state law cases has been exposed. The Supreme Court should take up Suncor versus Boulder County before this unconstitutional monster devours America's energy independence. And yeah, I mean, if it ends up getting as bad as what he's predicting that it could become, then I mean, I'm sure the Supreme Court would probably take that up probably pretty quickly, because that's kind of a big deal, man. You know, completely chokeholding our entire industry sector is it's both retarded and fucking suicidal, financially speaking. All right, so let's head down. I think I'm getting near the end. I only got a couple more to go. Ambassador Mike Walls, the United States welcomes Ukraine's bold stand against the brutal Cuban regime's sham resolution at the UN, despite UK-run UN, that is Ukraine mission to the UN, exposing Cuban mercenaries fighting alongside Russia in Ukraine. Dozens of European countries hypocritically voted with Cuba. Quote, our vote is against the inaction of Cuba's government in the face of recruitment of Cuban citizens into Russia's military, which brings death and devastation to Ukraine, end quote. Among them, nationals of the Republic of Cuba constitute the largest group of mercenaries serving in the Russian army. Our defense forces have taken numerous Cuban nationals as prisoners of war fighting alongside Russian troops, end quote. Did you know about this? I had no idea that there were Cubans that were fighting with the Russians. What? All right. I mean, I get it. I get the history that they have together, you know, the Cuban Missile Crisis and all that going on back in the 60s. But damn, dude, I didn't expect freaking Cubans to be fighting in Russia against Ukraine. That's crazy.
Our vote is against the inaction of Cuba's government in the face of recruitment of its citizens into Russia's military, which brings death and devastation to Ukraine. There is no secret that since 2022, to sustain its aggression, Russia has been actively recruiting foreign citizens to fight in its ongoing war against Ukraine. Among them, nationals of the Republic of Cuba constitute the largest group of mercenaries serving in the Russian army. I repeat, the largest group. Our defense forces have taken numerous Cuban nationals as prisoners of war fighting alongside Russian troops. At least several thousand Cuban citizens have signed contracts joining the ranks of soldiers directly engaged
they need the money,
operations
probably,
on Ukrainian soil. This massive recruitment is not a matter of isolated Cuban individuals acting on their own. No, it's a systematic practice involving illicit networks that operate openly with the knowledge and, we must conclude, with tacit condemnation of the authorities in Havana.
Wow, man. Thousands of Cuban mercenaries are heading to Russia to fight Ukraine, man. What? That is wild. Okay, House Foreign Affairs Committee majority. The Sudanese government is expelling international aid officials while their country falls into further into disrepair. This isn't governance, it's state-sponsored starvation. Sudan must reverse course and endure. Every last drop of international aid reaches those in need. Absolutely crazy, dude. That's wild they're turning them away. Sudan's military government has ordered 2 senior officials at the UN's World Food Program to leave the country amid widespread famine sparked by a grueling civil war that erupted in April of 23. The WFP said directors of its Sudan operation were declared persona non grata and told to go within 72 hours without explanation. The decision comes days after the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces, or RSF, captured the key city of El Fasher in Darfur from the military after an 18-month siege, which included a food blockade. The WFP said the expulsions came at a pivotal time in humanitarian needs in Sudan had never been greater, with more than 24 million people facing acute food insecurity. Although the military government has not given a reason for the expulsions, it has previously accused aid groups of breaking local laws and releasing misleading reports on famine conditions. The government said the expulsion will not affect the country's cooperation with the WFP state news agency SUNA reported. The WFP says it is engaging with Sudanese authorities to resolve the matter. And we got a simple guide. And let's see, a pregnant woman's diary of escape from the war zone. Well, I'm going to link this whole article, so you'll probably just get those links from here. 2.5 years of fighting between the army and the RSF escalated on Sunday when the RSF seized El Fasher in the western region of Darfur. These are now fears for the fate of the estimated 250,000 people in the city, many from non-Arab communities. Reports of atrocities, including mass killings, have been mounting since the city fell. Quote, the situation in El Fasher is extremely dire, and there are violations taking place on the roads, including looting and shooting, with no distinction made between young or old. One man who managed to escape El Fasher told the BBC Arabic's Sudan Lifeline program, quote, we managed to reach Tawala, where humanitarian organizations are present. We are grateful that we arrived, even though we have been sleeping on the roads. Tawala is a town about 60 kilometers or 37 miles west of El Fasher and already hosts around 800,000 people, many of whom escaped from the vast Zamzam camp near El Fasher when it was attacked by the RSF in April. Since the conflict erupted, RSF fighters and allied Arab militia in Darfur have been accused of targeting people from non-Arab ethnic groups, allegations the RSF denies. On Tuesday, the El Fasher Resistance Committee, a group of local activists, accused the RSF of executing wounded people receiving treatment at the city's Saudi hospital. Researchers at Yale University supported this allegation, saying satellite images appeared to show clusters of bodies within the hospital grounds. Wow, man. International bodies such as the European Union and African Union have expressed alarm, while locals say the current situation is reminiscent of the region's darkest days. Darfur experienced one of the world's gravest humanitarian disasters from 2003 to 2020. And let's see. The Janjaweed, a militia who were accused of genocide and ethnic cleansing during this time, morphed into what is now the RSF. Sudanese-American poet Imtithal Mahmoud, who has family in El Fasher and lost relatives in the previous Darfur conflict, said she felt a genocide was occurring once again, as seen from social media footage being posted by the RSF. Quote, the only difference is that now it's live streamed and videotaped and sent around because the RSF understands that they can act with impunity. Ms. Mahmoud told the BBC the RSF denies targeting civilians. Wow, man, that is insane. And of course, we're never going to hear any of this on the mainstream media, so figured I'd spend at least a couple minutes talking about it because I came across it today. And it came from the House Foreign Affairs Committee majority, so our federal government, they've got eyes on it. They're paying attention. And this comes from the New York Post. Aide to Democrat Massachusetts Governor Maura Healey busted after allegedly having 8 kilos of cocaine sent to the state office building. You can't make this shit up. Unbelievable, dude. This is crazy. It's like Democrats believe they could just get away with anything at this point. It seems like they really can't. They really do. Anyway, that's footage from Jamaica. I'm going to get to that here in a minute. So a staffer for Democratic Massachusetts Governor Maura Healey was hit with drug trafficking charges after authorities intercepted 8 kilos of cocaine from being delivered to a state office building. Lamar Cook, who has served as deputy director of Healey's Western Massachusetts office since 2023, was charged with trafficking over 200 grams of cocaine, unlawful possession of a firearm, and unlawful possession of ammunition related to the bust. Hamden District Attorney Anthony Gugliuni announced on Wednesday. Multiple parcels containing about 21 kilograms of cocaine has been seized by Massachusetts State Police throughout the investigation into Cook. So as much as 21 kilograms of cocaine. Cook was arrested during a Tuesday traffic stop 3 days after authorities conducted a controlled delivery operation of 8 kilos of coke to the Springfield State Office building where the Healey staffer worked. And there he is. That's the cocaine kingpin of Massachusetts. at least in the government. His arrest is also linked to parcels seized at the Hotel UMass in Amherst, where Cook was previously employed, containing about 13 kilos of the drug. Evidence collected during that operation was consistent with the narcotics recovered during the most recent controlled delivery in Springfield, Guluni said. Cook, 45, was arraigned Wednesday in Springfield District Court and pleaded not guilty. His bail was set at just 25 grand. Dude, they're talking up to 21 kilos of cocaine, and that was all he was given for bail. Okay, I guess. All right, as the Western Massachusetts director for Governor Maura Healey, I serve as a key liaison between the state government and Western region of Massachusetts, the LinkedIn bio for the suspected cocaine trafficker reads. In this role, I effectively manage and coordinate government initiatives and policies in 4 counties. Cook was fired from his post in the governor's administration after his arrest, a spokesperson for Healey said. Quote, the governor's office has been made aware of the arrest of an employee, Lamar Cook. The conduct that occurred here is unacceptable and represents a major breach of the public trust, the Healey rep said in a statement to Boston 25 News. Yeah, this should be a lesson to people who vote Democrat. The people you're voting for, they believe they can get away with literally whatever they want, and F what you think. Quote, Mr. Cook has been terminated from his position effective immediately. The statement continued, this criminal investigation is ongoing, and our administration will work with law enforcement to assist them in their work. 2 Republicans challenging Healey for the Massachusetts governorship in 2026 slammed her after the cocaine bust. Well, of course they did. I mean, that's a good, it makes for a good campaign slogans for sure that you're, the person you're going to be running against, or the Republicans challenging her. They got freaking cocaine traffickers working for her, for crying out loud. Quote, Healey has lost control of every aspect of her administration. Mike Kennelly, a Republican former state official, wrote on X, quote, when I'm a governor, we'll clean up the mess that Maura Healey created. A top aide to Governor Maura Healey is a drug trafficker. This is beyond shocking. Brian Shortsleeve, the former head of the Massachusetts Bay Transportation Authority, wrote on X, this is a reflection not just on our governor and her failed leadership and management skills, but on our entire state, and we shouldn't tolerate it. Governor Healey owes Massachusetts an explanation. Healey's office did not immediately respond to the Post's request for comment. And of course, what's his name? He is obviously presumed innocent until proven guilty. And I'm going to move on to the last thing I have from News Nation. Hurricane Melissa left a trail of devastation in its wake across Jamaica. From roofed homes to resort entrances, no place was spared from the powerful storm. So let's take a look at this video. Oh man, I'm getting PTSD already. Because I rode out Hurricane Helene and Hurricane Milton last year. We had 100-mile-an-hour winds here at my house. Took down a tree in my backyard. But no, dude, this is way, way worse. 185-mile-an-hour winds in this storm. Catastrophic. I think they said over 20 inches of rain fell in some spots. And a lot of the roofs are corrugated metal, man.
And as you can see, everybody's in the hallways. We came up from downstairs in the basement area.
Did you see that lady? She had like her feet all propped up on the couch, like hogging up the entire couch.
We're still boarded up. It's dark outside.
There's a film going.
Looks like the AC is out. Oh man, yeah, they got some damage already.
You can see that it's
pouring in. Yeah, they got the buckets. That's not going to do much.
But you know what? Compared to what we just went through, just again, for the storm out what we went through.
Hey, dude, the building's still there.
For it to
be grateful the roof is still
right
is still up there for the most part.
That can be replaced. It's raining in here, but I'll tell you what, these workers, the staff here have been phenomenal. Okay, so.
Oh, I'm sure, man. I bet they've been busting their asses. I can only imagine.
And this is where we were
going
earlier,
above and beyond for the
where we were earlier.
for the visitors. Oh man, dude. Yeah, that's rough. I mean, a lot of the palm fronds are still intact, but definitely broken.
She had got coffee, and about 3 minutes later, the window shattered. And this is the remnants of Hurricane Melissa.
Yeah, I haven't had time to really look through videos on the internet to see what else there might be out there, but I'm probably going to do a video on that this weekend just to see what else, because it was a daytime hurricane. It made landfall like around 1 o'clock in the afternoon, somewhere around that. It was in the middle of the day when it made landfall. So was anybody fortunate enough to be like where the eye made landfall? Because the eye collapsed like within probably 15, 20 miles after it went on shore in Jamaica. So anybody who was near the beach, right where it made landfall, they would see blue skies. They would see the eye right above them. So I'm hoping maybe somebody got a video of that, because I'm really curious to see that. I'm going to go back to this because it looked like they had a video on New York Post of the storm. Yeah, here we go. So I'm going to play this too, because it's probably different. They probably got different views.
Hurricane Melissa tore across Jamaica Tuesday, the worst storm seen on the island since record-keeping began in 1850. Yep. The Category 5 storm came packing.
1988 was the strongest storm.
Winds, not
130
just
miles an hour.
Of 185 miles per hour, 3 feet
that is
of
a
rain,
monster.
and a predicted storm surge of up to 13 feet. That is...
Which, by the way, the hurricane categories, they do 20-mile-an-hour increments from Category 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So if they actually had a Category 6, this would have been well into Category 6 territory, because I believe Category 5 starts at 155-mile-an-hour winds, and this storm was clocked at 30 miles an hour above that.
Insane. Flooding and power outages have been widespread. Roofs have been ripped off. Lives have been lost. We don't even have a total count yet. What's also insane, a moronic wannabe influencer who bragged about flying to Jamaica just hours before Melissa made landfall. Hannah Grubbs posted a bunch of just absurd videos to Instagram boasting about riding out the storm.
Did they find her like body washed up somewhere?
Now, an on-the-ground look at the storm is not in and of itself absurd. It's what she was saying. Grubbs whined about it, ruined.
Now look, it'd be different if she was a weather fanatic. She didn't look like a weather fanatic, but you never know. You know, don't necessarily judge a book by its cover. I mean, there are people who would fly into hurricane, like around here. I mean, people do it all the time. They travel down here to get ahead of a storm before it makes landfall, so they can get tons of footage and live stream it and, you know, get some attention on the internet from it.
Her vacation. Now, as you might expect, she was swiftly blasted by commenters pointing out that her holiday without the sun is nothing compared to the death and destruction Melissa is sure to cause for locals who didn't and don't have the money to leave. And others pointed out that she was taking resources from people who could really use it.
Oh, wow. Good point.
Given that she flew into Jamaica knowing full well that this massive hurricane had the island country in its sights. Now, the United
100%.
Nations, which says for Jamaica, it will surely be the, quote, storm of the century, has already launched a sea lift operation to deliver aid to the island. You know, many scientists believe that super strong hurricanes like Melissa are the result of climate change. But one of the loudest voices of climate doom and gloom is changing his tune. Microsoft co-founder Bill Gates has spent years warning of the dire
whatever. I don't
impacts
want to
of
get into the
rising
weeds
global
with all that.
temperatures.
I mean, I will make one comment to that effect, that if the global temperatures rise, it causes upper level wind shear to be more widespread and stronger in wind speed. And if you know anything about hurricane development, wind shear is a death. It causes the death of hurricanes before they even have a chance to develop. If they encounter wind shear out in the upper atmosphere across the ocean will blow a hurricane apart. It won't even, it'll snuff it out before it even has a chance to develop into a powerful hurricane. And wind shear will become more widespread if the earth continues to warm. So anyway, yep. So I think that is all I've got for this episode. And let me cue the music. Got to cue up my music, man. Can't forget the music. All right. Anyway, So that'll do it for this episode. If you enjoyed the video, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. It'll mean a lot to me if you subscribe, and I'll drop a new episode every evening, Monday through Friday, covering the swamp and everyone living in it, the politicians, bureaucrats, agencies, and everything else. And I also post daily episodes on X, so feel free to comment over there too if you'd like. And thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your night, and God bless America.